Okay, uh, we are here. We are live. Welcome everybody to our first episode of Reesports Rundown, a talk show where five of us go through, our respective games and talk about the esports leagues and meta changes that happen during the week. This is a bi-weekly podcast that will air every Sunday night and also will air on WIIT radio around 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Fridays. So if you're an MTCC or want to tune in through radio, we will be live on Friday, 10 a.m. or 12 p.m. So I'm Isaac. I am the Esports and Digital Arts Center Manager at IIT. Also play Apex. Well, I used to play Apex for IIT. Now I just do TO things. So that's my kind of background. I play a lot of Apex. I play some League here and there. I keep up with LCS, LCK, LPL, LEC, and also keep up a little bit with Valorant. I like fighting games. I like shooters, MOBAs, everything really under the sun. So on my left, on this side over here, we have Awesome. Awesome,
Yeah,
introduce yourself.
yeah, hello. I'm Awesome. I'm the current game lead for Valorant at IIT, and then also the player manager. I also play on the B team. When it comes to games I play or watch right now, mostly I play Valorant and a bit of Apex. But when it comes to watching, I watch a lot of Valorant, obviously. A lot of Overwatch because I used to be heavily involved in that, and then I watch a bit of League, not too much though, and then same thing with CS:GO.
Okay, thank you. And on my right, we have Eric.
Hi there. I'm a second year CS major at IT. I currently play for the Valorant A team and the Rainbow Six A team, but I like to keep up a lot with the CS League and Valorant pro scenes.
All right, and next we have Andrew.
All right, I'm Andrew. I'm a fourth year aerospace engineering major. I'm currently the treasurer for IT Esports at the moment. I also play a lot of League of Legends and Valorant, so those are my two primary games. I play for Valorant B team with Awesome, and then I play on the D1 and D2 teams for League. And I am the captain of the D2 team for the League. And I mainly follow the League esports scene.
All right, and lastly we have Memo.
Hey everyone, my name is Memo. I am a freshman at ITE. I am the Valorant A captain, and I like to keep up with Valorant and CS:GO mainly, and I do dabble into a little bit of League and Overwatch, mostly just highlights though for those other two games.
Okay, and that's our co-hosts. So basically, I'm gonna go over what this show is all about. We're talking about esports leagues, League of Legends, Valorant, Overwatch League when it starts. Any esports league that is major and prevalent. We're going to go over and provide kind of our feedback and our a little bit of analysis uh, for teams' strengths, weaknesses. How can they go on a win streak, and how can they break their losses? We'll start now with actually League of Legends. We're going to go with LCS. Okay, give me a second. For some reason, we have a cropping error, which is fantastic. It's completely fine. So, with League of Legends, once I have this cropping error fixed, there we go. Uh, with with League of Legends, we're starting with the LCS. So going from bottom to top for our radio people that can't see the screen, we have 10th place. We have CLG at 0 and 3, Golden's Guardians at 1 and 2, FlyQuest at 1 and 2, tied with them. Actually, we have like a four-way tie for ninth. Dignitas also 1 and 2. I don't think they're called Dignitas anymore. Oh yeah, they are. We have Immortals at 1 and 2 as well, and TSM at 1 and 2. It's a six-way tie for fifth. That's kind of nuts. Then for tied for third, we have Teen Liquid and Evil Geniuses, and tied for first, we have C9 and 100 Thieves. So, let's start from the top, actually, Andrew. Let's start from the top with C9. So we had the lock-in tournament about 2 weeks ago now,
Yep.
and C9 and Team Liquid got to the finals. I kind of expected, C9 to be C9 or Team Liquid to be at first, but we saw that Team Liquid dropped a game to Immortals. Can you see like give me the rundown on that one because we saw Revenge do like super well in the top lane, and what went wrong in the draft?
I think TL is really strong right now, and both C9 and TL had really strong showings in the lock-in tournament, and it got really close in the lock-in tournament. The finals went to 3-2 to TL, and I mean, if you look at how the season has been going, like this past weekend, they had really good matches, and I mean, there were interesting points like Immortals throughout the lock-in tournament looked really poor because they were playing with a lot of substitutes. But now that they have their full team together, they have the Oceanic bot lane, and then they also have Revenge as a really strong top laner for them. So Immortals actually looks pretty strong and looks like they might actually be within like the mid-tier teams for the most part of the season. So we'll see how that goes. And then we have
Oh,
and
you
then we have
got
Cloud9 at the top, right? So we have Cloud9 just really strong with perks there. And I feel like the team is really adjusting much better than they did in the lock-in tournament. And Cloud9, because of that, I feel like they're really starting to get into form, and we'll see how they do in the throughout the season. But right now they look really good.
Yeah, we kind of saw that like in the beginning they had like a little clash because it's the perks trying to bring in this LEC style to like an LCS team that's not that's not to the same caliber as their his G2 counterparts. To be honest, let's be real. Fudge is not as good as like Wonder or any like LEC like top laner because right now Fudge is like kind of running it down pretty hard. Uh,
Right.
s- so like he's picking all these like duelists. He's not picking any like the team's not really like playing around him, right? It's always that he's on this flank or he's trying to get a flank, and sometimes it looks like he's just feeding, and sometimes he's like popping off. So, how do you think like Fudge will kind of adjust to this new style that Perks is trying to bring in?
Mhm. Most definitely, I feel like Perks is trying to implement how he played in the the LEC, right? So I feel like they'll really need time to adjust. And I think in the lock-in tournament, what they were doing was they were really testing a lot of different things. So I think um, what C9 was really trying to do was trying to see how they could adjust their team around like what styles they could play. Because they brought out a lot of interesting picks. They brought out the Seraphine bot lane. They also brought out the Graves top lane, which was very interesting to see. I was really curious to see how that turned out. Obviously, it didn't work out as well as C9 was expecting, probably, but I think it was really good to test out different things in the lock-in tournament, and they did get good results either way. Like getting second place in the lock-in tournament was not bad at all, and it was really close too. So I think one thing that they really did, like Fudge recently talked about it in an interview, I think actually, and he said that um, Perks and Sven both, since they're both from the LEC, they both bring in this style where they just are very upfront and they're confrontational. So because of that, like they really openly talk about their problems and issues. And I think because of that, Fudge will grow really quickly. And I think by like maybe around summertime, I think C9 will be a powerhouse for sure, and like they will be probably the best team in NA, if not if TL doesn't keep up with them.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds right. I'm really excited to see how C9 grows. I mean, they're basically like one of the hopes of NA. Seeing them do bad would be really detrimental for the NA fans. So we'll see how they turn out. They're starting off real strong. I don't think they've dropped a game so far. So let's go down the list. We got 100T. 100T actually was predicted in most of the LCS analyst charts to be either like out of top three or like third, right behind C9 or Liquid. So 100T is looking really strong. They're playing through Demonte. Like Demonte is making like plays everywhere. It you know how they say it's Tanner time, man.
It is
So
Tanner time.
um, like Sunday is doing super good. He's playing like Camille. He's playing like Fiora sometimes. I think he played Jax into like a counter pick. So like they can carry through top lane, and their bot lane with for their bot lane's like pretty decent. It's not like they're feeding, and like especially in this meta, like bot lane's one of the most important lanes of the pro scene. So uh, kind of tell me how how success like how they become successful at this point.
I mean, I think 100 Thieves always had a lot of potential, mainly because they had Someday. I mean, Someday is this carry top laner, right? Like he came from the LCK. He's known to be one of the best top laners in LCK. So I feel like now that 100 Thieves really has a team, they basically picked up the GG or the GG roster from last season, and because of that, they're looking really strong. And I mean, the GG roster last season was really strong as well. They performed really well. They didn't make it to Worlds, but I mean, they contested the top teams like really well, and they looked really strong. So I think 100 Thieves with Someday as their new top laner, I think they're going to be really good. So, and they showed that. I mean, obviously there are some kinks to work out, obviously, because they do have a different top laner they need to play around, and now it's like more carry style top laner. So we'll see how that goes. But in the lock-in, it didn't look too bad at all, and I feel like 100 Thieves has a lot of potential for sure.
Yeah, I really agree with that. That Demonte is like he can play. He's shown to play more supportive picks like TF Galio. He can play these global ult champions and put pressure around the entire map. Meanwhile, we see like someday he can play everything. He has like champion Ocean. He plays Gnar. He plays Camille. He plays like tanks. It's nuts, and like their teamwork is really good. I think on paper you would underestimate their roster, but like when they start playing, the team chemistry is actually really good, and I definitely think they can contend for finals. I think it's a dark horse.
Most definitely.
Okay, and we'll put a let's do a little surprise one here. Team Liquid. We talked about their Immortals loss. That was kind of crazy. Like,
It was.
they really shouldn't have lost to Immortals, but it seemed like Alfari was not doing good that game. He got ran down super hard, and I'm kind of they're starting to be dominant, but they're showing little kinks here and there. Like Core JJ is doing Core JJ things, being the best support in NA and possibly the world, and I think they're kind of maybe leaning in too much because on some games you see tactical not do so good. Sometimes you see him pop off, and I think that's a really big question mark on their roster.
I think it was a bit of a hiccup for TL, but it's not something that we need to worry too much about, I'm sure, because even though Immortals did win that game, um, I think the big thing there was that Revenge got a pick that he really could play well on, because they picked Immortals, or they picked Irelia into Kennen. So that's a really good matchup for Revenge there. So Revenge showed that if he is given a good matchup, he can be really strong. He also played Ivern, I believe, at some point, and at that when he was playing Ivern, he wasn't able to carry, obviously, because Ivern's not a carry champion. So I think when Revenge is put on a champion that can really perform well, Immortals has a lot of potential. So I think if Immortals starts playing around Revenge and maybe starts to have synergy around that, I think Immortals can look pretty good. But right now, I think they're just outside of the top four teams that I would say are include TL, Evil Geniuses, 100 Thieves, and Cloud9.
And let's go to the I think the biggest disappointment on this list, TSM. I know they're tied for fifth right now. It may look like it, but I mean, come on, they almost lost to CLG. It was a nail biter game that I don't even think like CLG handed them the win, right? They just did they took like terrible fights and they got picked, and TSM shouldn't have won that match. I was like, it really shouldn't have. So let's talk about TSM. Let's talk about the biggest move of the offseason, Sword Art. Like Sword Art. Mm, how can I say this? When he goes for wards or when he tries to make a play, it looks like they're sleeping. It's like Spica hit a 9-man sleep on Lilia. It's crazy. So like I don't think they're gelling well with the Sword Art. And then POE, he's no Bjergsen. Like Bjergsen, just like one of the best mid laners in NA history. So now they're adjusting to like a new mid laner that they haven't done that in like years. So what's going on with this TSM roster, man?
ESM was definitely really hyped coming into the season because of like the history of each of the players on their team. Like PoE was known to play really well in LEC. Sorda was known to play really well in. I mean, he played in the final stage for LPL on Suning, and then he also played for Flash Wolves a long time back, and he was really good there too. And then you also have Huni in the top lane, right? He was a really good, strong top laner for. He played in 3 different regions, and he played really well in each of them. But he's starting to wane, and he's starting to see performances where he's a little bit worse than probably the other top laners in the LCS right now. So it was a bit of an up in the air question mark for TSM at the time, and it really is showing right now that they can't synergize very well. Maybe without the leadership of Bjergsen, they're lacking some strong leadership, strong voice in their team that can just lead them to make the calls that they want to, or the play style that they want to play. And I think TSM is really lacking that right now. So if they don't find that leadership or perhaps like synergy that they really need to be strong, they're gonna be bad. They're gonna play like how they did against CLG. And I mean CLG just exposed TSM's early game. They just looked really, really bad. They just looked like they were lost. And I mean it's TSM lost, right? That's the meme. So I really think TSM really needs to step it up for sure. And if they don't, they're gonna be at the bottom of the standings with probably CLG and maybe Dignitas.
Yeah, and I really think that like Sordar is underestimating the micro of his teammates because he's going from a world's finalist roster to like a 0-5 TSM from group stage. Like we see like these foreign players like Perks, like Sordar, like even Alfari trying to come in and bring in these different styles to the NA region, and some of them is working. Like Alfari is doing really well. He's playing good top lane. He's playing good top lane pressure. His team fights are really good. I mean, to be fair, like Core JJ is playing Rel and getting a 5-man pull, so it is what it is. Um, but you see like Lost with Sword Art, and they're kind of like not gelling, I should say. Like the LPL style is very skirmish heavy, and when you're skirmish heavy, you need a lot of little micro skills. And I don't think that TSM's roster is up to par, and it's really affecting how they team fight, how they take skirmishes early game, and that's why you see them losing a lot of this early game pressure and early game leads.
I think people are wondering if Bjergsen's coaching is having an effect on TSM because Bjergsen's coaching, like Bjergsen's style in general, if shown throughout like TSM's like history, was that Bjergsen likes to play the slow pace style where you just control the rest of the game, like how the Koreans used to play. And clearly it shows that TSM lacks the ability to skirmish that often, like confidently. So when it comes to the world stage, they always seem to lose on that aspect. And because of that, maybe Sword Art can't really implement his skirmish style that he wants to play from the LPL, and it could be the reason why TSM is struggling right now.
Okay, and then let's move on to the last team, CLG. They recently had a not a scandal, I would say, but Pobelter got benched. They saw like Wild Turtle cited coaching issues. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what he cited. What's going on at CLG? It seems like their roster is just blowing up.
Yeah, CLG looks like they're gonna have issues for a bit. Broxa also has visa issues. His visa got denied, so they're playing with Griffin right now. They also obviously dropped Belter from. They benched him, and now they're playing RJS, who's never played on the LCS stage before. So I think it's gonna be really interesting if CLG can even make a comeback here. Right now they're looking pretty iffy. The synergy doesn't look like it's there. Finn looks like he wants to play by himself, like in solo queue. Yeah, so CLG really needs to find some confidence somewhere, whether it be through Wild Turtle or through Finn in the top lane. CLG needs something stable and solid, and hopefully they can find that in perhaps Finn and play around Finn and maybe use that as their win condition to win more games. But right now they're just looking very shaky.
Hey, so that is our LCS wrap up. Again, going through the standings, we have 10th CLG. Tied for 5th, we have 6 teams: Golden Guardians, FlyQuest, Dignitas, Immortals, and TSM. Tied for 3rd, we have Team Liquid, Evil Geniuses, and tied for 1st, we have C9 and 100 Thieves. For my teams to look out for, it would really be Immortals. They're looking pretty good. They're actually improving a lot game to game. They might not be winning them, but their macro and micro and Jose Deodo uh, actually improving a lot. I'd be really excited to watch Team Liquid too. Team Liquid, they have Core JJ. Core JJ is never boring to watch. He's on these like engaged supports, and he makes huge plays for Team Liquid, and it's nuts. What do you think your team to watch is for this week?
Obviously TL and Cloud9 are really strong, so I'm not really gonna be paying much attention to them. I'm gonna assume that they're gonna be pretty good. I think the teams to really watch right now are Evil Geniuses and 100 Thieves. Like both of these teams, they don't seem very good on paper. They're a lot of veterans, like they are a lot of like proven players, but they're looking like they synergize really well right now, especially Evil Geniuses around Impact. Like Impact looks really, really good. He looks like he's in form, and he looks like if EG's bot lane can also perform, EG has the potential is the ceiling is like infinite. So I would really pay attention to those two teams and see how far they can go.
All right, so let's move on to the next region. Next up, we got EU. So EU, we have or LEC at this point, tied for 9th, or technically 10th at this place. We have Astralis and Vitality. 8th, we have Misfits. 7th, we have SK Gaming. Tied for 4th is a three-way tie for 4th. It's Fnatic, Mad Lions, and Excel. Tied for 2nd, we have G2 and Schalke, and Rogue coming off of their first loss and first at 6-1. So let's talk a little bit about Rogue. So Rogue last season was not actually a very good team. So they picked up Han Sama, they picked up a whole new roster basically, and they're looking strong. Like Han Sama is smurfing on like Zaya, Felios, like Samir, like any AD carry you name it, he's performing. It's almost looking like 2018 Misfits when they almost beat Reverse Sweep SKT. So what's going on over there?
I really think Rogue had a lot of potential last season. Obviously, they didn't live up to as much of the hype as they could have. But as you've been saying, Han Sama looks really good right now, and because of that, I feel like Rogue looks like they have a lot of potential to perform this season and be the top of the LEC. Like right now, G2 is having some struggles. Like clearly, they're lost to Fnatic. They're having some troubles in synergizing with Reckless and probably missing out on having perks in the bot lane and probably shot calling for them. So I think this is a good opportunity for Rogue to take over and see what they can do with the LEC and hopefully be in the top of the standings by the time Worlds comes around.
Yeah, and it's really exciting to watch. Let's talk Fnatic. Fnatic in the first week almost 0-3. They went 1-2. So Fnatic's not a rookie roster. You wouldn't expect a roster like this with Bwipo and Niski coming in. Like Niski? Is it Niski?
It is Niski.
Okay, cool. You wouldn't expect them to like drop so many games and like. What's your take on that?
I think it's really figuring out how to play without Reckless because before they had this really strong bot lane presence around Reckless, and right now they're playing around Upset. And Upset and Hylissang have to get this new synergy around, and they have to play around this new style around mid lane too because Nemesis and Niski play very different styles. Niski plays more of a team-oriented style, while Nemesis demanded more attention in the mid lane, and he wanted to carry more. So I think these are very different playstyles that Fnatic has to get used to, and they're getting better at. So I think there is really a lot of potential left for Fnatic to still do well because Selfmade has proven to do pretty well in the jungle. So if Selfmade can start carrying and play around maybe Niski together around like to carry top lane through Bwipo, or if Upset and Hylissang can get together and to play really well in the bot lane, then I think Fnatic has a lot of ways to play through different team comps and different styles compared to the rest of the LEC.
Yeah, and let's move on to the headliner. We have G2 losing to Fnatic. So in that game, I think G2 they weren't. I wouldn't say they were doing their signature trolling, but they definitely were not playing. I think they were trying new picks, to be honest. But also, Fnatic looked really good in that game. They looked like they were trying to get Yamato Cannon. Obviously, in the first week, I'm pretty sure he wasn't adjusted to everybody's style. Yamato Cannon really picked it up in the second week. They went 3-0, or is it 3-0? Yeah, I think 3-0. They did really well. So like Yamato Cannon style from the LC. Apparently, he learned a few things from the LCK, but they're doing really well. Really well now. What are your opinions on that game? It was an interesting game.
I think you're cutting out there a little bit, Isaac. If you could.
No. Uh, but yeah, what are your opinions on the G2 Fnatic game? We saw that Fnatic really picked up their team synergy, and like what was going on? Yamato Cannon put all the pieces of the puzzle together. You got Exodia, or what's up?
I think this is a bit of a revenge game for Bwipo. So Bwipo really wanted to take this game against them because they lost Caps, they lost Reckless to them, and now the G2 is just like Fnatic 2.0. So Bwipo still being on Fnatic, I think he really wanted to give them a piece of their own medicine. So what he really did was he took over the game. He picked Volibear and then he just destroyed G2, and he looked really strong on it. And I think if Fnatic wants to take that identity to play around Bwipo and play more around the top side, I think Fnatic can be really strong.
Yeah, and I think Yamato Cannon actually realized that because at first he was trying to play through his new bot lane upset in Hillsong. And to be fair, like those are both veterans. They should, be able to play that style, but it's kind of hard to play with a support you've never really played with. So it looks like they're getting back together, but I think for the short term, playing through the top side is definitely an option. Um, like Bofo getting these flanks off. He played Volibear and just face tanked everything, and then one shot the AD carry because tanks Omega Lol, Gordricker OP. But yeah, I mean it looks really good for Fnatic. Uh, Also, let's talk about a big move. Broken Blade to Shaka from TSM. It really looks like Broken Blade belongs in the LEC. Uh, that's I think is their secret to winning, just winning a lot. Shaka 5-2, doing really well, coming from a middle of a pack team again.
Yeah, I think Broken Blade fits really well into what Schalke wants to try to do, and Broken Blade brings in this carry style top lane, and I think because of that, Schalke has a lot of weapons that they can really play around, and Broken Blade maybe not have been able to play it to his full potential on TSM, where they probably put him on an island, like how they tried to do a lot of times through what TSM tries to do through their team, but on Schalke, Broken Blade looks like he has more freedom to do what he wants to try to do, carry through the top lane. So I think because of that, Schalke is probably unleashing Broken Blade's full potential, kind of like how EG is doing with Impact. So I think it's a good thing to look at, and definitely a lot of interesting things to look forward to for Schalke.
Okay, let's go over some picks to watch, some teams to watch. Uh, for me, it's definitely Fnatic at this point. Fnatic, not off to the hottest start, and it's really cool to see the team synergies change game by game or even week by week. So that would be my team to watch for this next couple weeks.
Personally, I think keeping an eye on Schalke would be really interesting. They've been looking pretty strong, and I'm really curious on how they're going to do if they face up against Rogue or up against G2 and see if they can perform well and probably best them even.
All right. So with that, let's run down the standings once again for the LEC. At ninth, tied for ninth, we have Astralis and Vitality. Eighth is Misfits Gaming. Seventh, we have SK Gaming. Tied for fourth is Fnatic, Mad Lions, and Excel. Tied for second, we have G2 and Schalke, No Fear. And first, we have Rogue. Next up, we're going to transition over to the LCK. LCK is a really interesting region right now. We have the standings. We have tied for ninth, Sandbox and Fredit Breon. Seventh, we have Nongshim Red Forest and Afrika Freaks. Fifth, we have T1 and KT Rolster. The telecom war is alive and well. For second, we have a three-way tie: Gen G, Hanwha Life, PRX, and and for first we have Danwon Kia. Now, Danwon Kia is basically smurfing. The world champions smurfing on the regions. This is probably one of the weirdest breaks in the script because when you win the world championship, you're not supposed to do good. We've had it historically, FPX winning worlds and then not doing so well in the next spring season. IG winning worlds and then doing well in the spring season, but in the summer they actually fell off because they lost their AD carry. And now, like even T1 when they won 2018, they almost didn't even make it to the 2019 World Championships. Was it 2000? Yeah, 2018, 2017.
Yeah,
Oh, oh. My my
I,
my knowledge kind of
that was
kind
a
of
while ago.
yeah. It's been time is a concept at this point. It's not. It's not. But yeah, Demwon breaking the curse of world champions not doing well in the next series, next season. So like it's hard to talk about one bad lane from Damwon, to be honest. Damwon, like Showmaker, if they want to play through Showmaker, they can. Like mid lane's not really a carry lane at this in this meta, but when Showmaker like plays a carry like a control mage like Oriana or even Syndra, he smurfs on them. Like he's such a big threat, And then they picked up Khan in the offseason. Nuguri went over to FPX. They basically traded top laners. Nuguri went to FPX. Khan went to Damwon. Khan showing his former, I would say, T1 self. In T1, he didn't. I mean, he didn't do that good in T1, but he did. He had some really good performances. I believe he also. I forgot his last name. Was it DRX? Oh, it's been a while too for Khan, but Khan doing really well, reverting back to his almost to his prime. He looks really good. And then their bot lane is Nuclear, like Nuclear coming from not Jin Well, he was from Jin but
Yeah.
coming from like a very bottom team, almost got relegated, and now he's a world champion. Like that's like every low tier like team's dream. Coming from a low tier team, getting on like a superstar roster, this is your chance, man. He wins worlds, and now he's dominating Korea. Uh, to be fair, I think it's their style of gameplay. They really picked up kind of like the Chinese LPL style, where it's a lot of skirmishes and a lot of really good decisions, which lacking from some LPL teams. So they just know how to skirmish. They know how to do that, but they also know how to macro, and it's working out for them super well.
Yeah, Damwon looks really strong, like how they did last season. Obviously Nuclear was really key for them, but now they've transitioned over to Ghost after Nuclear's retirement. Khan again looking pretty strong, but I feel like this is the point where Damwon really needs to work on working and synergizing well with Khan, because we know how Khan plays. He's a very feast or famine style player. He plays really well a lot of times, but sometimes he just throws it down the drain and then he's a coin flip. So if Damwon can really play around Khan's playstyle well, I think Damwon can really unleash their full power. Right now, I think like clearly they're still at the top of the LCK for sure. Like the rest of LCK looks like they're struggling. They don't know what they're doing completely yet. And Damwon still has their identity together with the majority of the players staying from the previous season. So I think unless Damwon really has like a huge hiccup, I think the rest of the LCK really needs to start catching up to how Damwon has been playing for sure.
Yeah, and I really think that LCK, they had their era of dominance with their really good macro play, but now they're like the game has changed. It doesn't look like they've changed all too much. They're still playing slow macro style, and even the casters and commentators are picking up on it. LCK really needs to change, and Damwon, I believe, was the first to change. To be honest, last year, um, they played Nuclear, and then Ghost stepped in, and they're basically the same AD carry. Like Ghost has been playing under Nuclear for so long that it really doesn't matter. And like LCK needs to start picking up on the LPL LEC style of heavy skirmish. They're kind of stuck in this like Faker era where where the mid laner is the only playmaker, and like top lane just exists. It's slowly coming with top laners like uh, Rascal, Zeus, uh, even like the Afrika Freaks bot lane where Bang returns, and he's playing like an LCS style where it's like very skirmish heavy in the bot lane. So like I think LCK as a region minus Dem One needs to really adjust and get out of the past where they're actually playing uh, entertaining League of Legends, because right now the entertaining style is skirmishing, and it's one of the strongest ways to play.
I think what the LCK really needs to do to really get their skirmish style up is to actually just develop more stronger players in their other lanes. Like T1 seems to be experimenting to do that right now with through Zeus and through Elim in the jungle and like switching up between closer and faker. So they're really trying to figure out this identity where they can probably have like feeling a strong team together so that they can skirmish at any point in the game. Like Damwon has strong laners or like strong teammates like all in all positions throughout Damwon. So it looks like they can skirmish and they can have these fights wherever on the map, and it looks like they can play through multiple options. Genji obviously doesn't quite have that because they mainly play through ruler, so their flexibility kind of goes down the drain there. So unless like these LCK teams start to figure out different ways to style on different teams, like adjust to no matter like whatever they need to play. Like the LPL always like brings out these very heavy like strong like lineups where they can just style on different teams based on just how they want to play through different lanes or through the jungle even. So I think once the LCK can figure out that identity and maybe T1 can be the initiator or the catalyst for that, the LCK might see a lot of growth as well.
Yep, and talking about T1, let's talk about them. They've rotated rosters so much that it's basically a merry-go-round. It seems that now in the second week of play that they've settled down on a roster. In the first week, they went they went basically winless, dropping games to like Sandbox. They lost to KT, they lost to Genji, they lost to Damwon. Um, they've actually now settled, so they've actually got rid of Kana. So Kana, last year's rookie MVP, basically, um, they got rid of him because I don't think he knew how to play like the new meta with the new items. They've brought in Zeus from their challenger team. This is actually one of the first times they've ever done this because they've announced their challenger team, and then 2 weeks later, that challenger top laner came up into the main roster. They they've also been experiment. They also experimented with Cuz and Elim. Um, like they're putting in Elim over. They're putting in Cuz over Elim. I don't know why they'd ever do that. Cuz is not looking too good. It seems like the only skirmish heavy jungler, or like even like getting their laners ahead, is like Lee Sin. He can't play Udyr. He can't play these fast clearing junglers. And then they put in Teddy in the bot lane. I don't know why they would ever do that because in the Kespa Cup, Gumayushi was basically on fire. He was playing with the challenger roster. Gumayushi was doing so well, and even in the first game against I forgot who their first opponent, but even in their first game, they put in Gumayushi, and then they won the game, and they subbed him out, and then they lost the match. Like, I don't understand why they'd ever do that, but now they're settling it on a roster. They have Zeus in the top lane, Elim in jungle, Faker in the mid lane over Closer, even though Closer he was doing okay, to be honest. He wasn't doing that well. I don't think he knows how to play control mages all too much. And then they have Gumayushi and Keria in the bot lane. Let's talk a little bit about Keria first. We can talk about the other members. Keria, I think he's basically just effort 2.0. He's not like Core JJ where he's making plays. Keria is like sitting back playing these like almost enchanter type support, but he's playing an engaged support, and it just doesn't look natural for him.
Yeah, I think Keria needs to find his spot because I mean he's been switching back between Teddy and Gumayushi, so I don't really blame him for his struggles. Once SKT probably settles on a roster, maybe Keria will look a little bit stronger, be more confident in his plays, and be able to play together with his bot lane. I mean even in his mid lane, like it's changing between Faker and Closer. So this 10-man roster might really backfire on T1 on how they can really synergize with each other and see which style like each player really plays well. And they're splitting scrim time too. Like Faker has lost scrim time to Closer, but then obviously the other way around, like Kumiushi and Teddy are splitting scrim time because of the fact that like they're fielding different rosters. So I think it'll really come down to how this team can really, really synergize well. So once now that they look like they've settled on a roster, hopefully they can find this synergy and see more confident plays in the bot lane through Gumayushi and Keria, or plays between Faker and Elim. And I think Elim has potential. Like right now, he's still kind of a diamond in the dirt. Like he still looks like he needs to be polished. There's still a lot of things he needs to work on. Like right now, I wouldn't put him too far ahead of Cuz. I'd probably put him at very similar levels actually. So until Elam can really find his spot on T1 and hopefully synergize really well with Faker, I think it'll be a bit of a struggle for T1 still for a while. And the thing with Kana, it's a little bit sad. Like he was really good last season. But the thing is that I think Kana is a confidence-based player. So he really needs confidence through his team, through his play, and having this 10-man roster probably shook things up a little bit for Kana. And losing that confidence in himself and his team probably hurt him a lot. And I think because of that, Kana's performance went down, and now they're playing Zeus instead of Kana. And I think maybe Kana needs a new team even, or if T1 can really restore Kana's confidence, then maybe this roster can field Kana again. Until then, I think Zeus looks pretty good. Zeus is very young. He's only 17, I believe, so he has a lot of potential. And because of that, I think if T1 sticks to Zeus, I wouldn't blame them at all.
Yeah, and we can see that. Let's talk about some LCK returns. So we have Blank from the Turkish scene actually joining Nongshim Red Force as their jungler, and we have Bang back in Afrika Freaks. I think it's really cool to see like basically the entire old guard of T1, like the dominance of T1 era. They're all in separate teams, man. Uh, so like Their return kind of middling. That's not like some grand return. They're like, yes, they're gonna like stomp on these teams with new style. It's more like, oh yeah, they're here. Um, Except for Bang, like the recent wins that Freak of Freaks have had, Bang has played basically carry, and he has picked the team up by one hand and just threw him across the line. And sometimes he picks up the game and throws it really hard. But
Yeah, for sure.
it's just middling returns on these old guard um, Korean players.
Yeah, I think having these old players return, it can spell good things for the LCK, but I also think it's not the best thing because this is what also the LCS likes to do. They like to pick up old veterans. They like to pick up these old players that really may have passed their time, but I mean, this is what Faker is trying to disprove, right? Like through his age, like even through his experience, he's still one of the best. That's what he's trying to prove through T1 and staying on the roster. So I think it'll really time will come to tell like how well these old veterans can still play. Like Peanut is still playing. Bang is still playing, and they're different players, but there's also these young up and coming players like Zeus on T1. And then there's also Pyoshik that's showing signs of life on DRX that looks pretty strong. So I think there are a lot of young potential players that can show that they have more strength than these older veterans. But if these veterans show that they are still very key members, I think that it'll show up on throughout the rest of the season throughout the LCK.
Yeah, and you know, LCK I think has probably the best um, you know, second tier 2 teams in the world. A lot of teams pick up these young people, rookies, um, and put them on their main rosters because they just prove to be so good. I don't know what's in the water over there, but it seems that they're like every single challenger or tier 2 player in Korea, basically gods in like other regions. It's really nuts because we'll see like T1, they'll pick up closer, and he'll do really well, and teams probably want him. Even like effort was a when he debuted, he was like not that good, and he started improving, and like teams actually wanted him. Like T1 had to fight for him. Uh, so like it's kind of cool to see these guys like even in live sandbox. Everett's reunited with his challenger 80 carry Leo. Leo didn't even debut in the LCK, and he got picked up from a team straight off the challenger region. T1 is doing something really good with their young players and trying to get this LCK region as like a whole to start improving, and it shows because Damwon Kia they have like really old members. Like these guys have been in the league for forever, and they're like picking up things they see in the lower region, lower ranks, and really applying them at a high level. And I think LCK just is just really good at developmentals. Um, they're not really the best, nationally, internationally, with their main rosters, but a lot of Chinese teams and even Korean teams pick up their young players to just test them out for a year or two, and sometimes they become superstars like Kana. Not so much in the present, but when he debuted in the last year, uh, they become superstars, and it's insane.
Yeah, for sure. I think the LCK and the LPL both have really strong developmental scenes. Like they have a lot of young and up and coming players that look really, really strong. So this is why the LEC and mostly the LCS, they pick up these players from the LCK or the LPL, and it's because they have so much talent. Like they have talent to just test and try, like how T1 is doing right now with their 10-man roster. Like it's not like Teddy or Cuz or or even Faker even. They're not bad at all. They're old, but like they're not bad. They're still really respectable players. And Bang that right now, like he went to the LCS is because he was a more of an older player. He's more of a veteran at that point, and he performed well in the LCS, and now he's even back in the LCK. So I think this talent that is there in the LCK and LPL, it's definitely something that really they can use, and probably something that LEC and the LCS really want to try to pick up.
All right, let's move on to our picks, our teams to watch. I think my team to watch, my personal favorite, T1. They're really fun team to watch. You can see, you live the nostalgia of Faker just either carrying the game, or you can see their teamwork. They're immaculate, like team fight. They're really improving with this their set roster. They're not rotating anything around. And also, I really like to watch Bang. So of course, I gotta pick a Freak of Freaks. Bang is probably my all-time favorite AD carry. I don't care if he's the best anymore, but he's just fun to watch. I mean, I get to see him play. It's basically what I live for, anyways. But a Freak of Freaks, they're also improving. Not as fast. They are losing in macro plays, but um, they're just fun to watch.
For me, I think the team to watch. I know like there's a lot of known players in like Hanwha. They have Chovy, they have Deft, and Genji. They have Ruler. But I think really the team to watch for me would be DRX because they are really surprising me on how well they are actually performing. Like they have a lot of players that are not as well known. Like they have Pyoshik from the previous season, and obviously I think he's performing very, very well, and he's leading this new DRX team that they're forming. Like I know there's management issues, but despite all those things, DRX is in the top four and they look pretty strong. So I think DRX may be the team to watch and see how well they can continue their performance, and maybe see the rest of T1 struggle. Maybe see Hanwha even struggle. They dropped a game to Sandbox earlier this week.
Yep. And with that, I want to announce the standings again. So at ninth, we have Live Sandbox and Fred of Breon. Seventh, we have a Freak of Freaks and Nongshim Red Force. For fifth, we have T1 and KT Rollster. Second, we have a three-way tie: Genji, Hanwha Life, DRX, and first, World Champions Donwa Kia. Next up, we're gonna go transition over to the LPL. So here's the LPL. LPL, we have like a huge amount of divisions. I think there's like way more teams in the LPL. They have two divisions. But the overall standings, we have 12th, we have V5 or Victory 5. 11th, we have World's finalist Suning. That's really unexpected. 10th, we also have World semifinalist Top Esports. 9th, we have 2019 World Champions IG. And then tied for 6th, we have, again, World semifinalists JDG, LNG, and Rare Atom. For 4th, we have WE and Billy Billy. At 3rd, we have RNG. Second, we have Fun Plus, and first we have EDG. This is basically like if I took minus all the new teams, if I just looked at the standings, the top 5 or top 3, it just looks like 2018 all over again. EDG and RNG on top. RNG doesn't even have Uzi anymore. He's been retired for years. They've been playing really well. They haven't changed up. They've gotten rid of MLXG. They haven't changed up their roster all too much. But let's talk about EDG. They picked up the Viper, and it looks like it's one of the Korean. It's like a gold rush over there. Viper is is amazing in this LPL league, and I think it's like made for him because in Griffin they love to fight. It was like kind of like the hint that LCK needed to like push their league forward. Griffin was a fighting team. They never gave up objectives like for free. They played excellent macro, and it's basically just Damwon, but it Damwon is just basically Griffin, but with macro. Because Griffin, they played okay macro, but it wasn't to the time at the level of Damwon. So Viper bringing over the skirmish style in the bot lane, perfect meta for him. Carry through the bot lane. EDG 7-0.
Yeah, I think EDG is a really exciting team to watch right now. Viper is showing that he's got a lot of talent, that he might have been a bit underestimated even on the talented Griffin roster. He's really showing up for EDG, and along with Scout, who's also been proven, he used to play on SKT for a bit, and he's showing that the two of them together can carry EDG across the finish line. And Mako probably showing some guidance on like as a veteran for the team. They probably consider us very well together, and they look like they're going to be very strong bot lane duo. And until another bot lane duo shows that they can really see and force Viper to hiccup, I think this EDG team has a lot of potential.
Yeah. Let's go on to the other old guard team, Uziless RNG. Royal Never Give Up. Their new jungler, not MLXG, but Wei from WE, if you don't know. Um, Wei looking really good on these farming junglers. I mean, his like jungle play is immaculate, man. He's like at the top of his form. Obviously, like for some reason, LPL likes to play uneven games. They've only played 7, while some teams have played 8. So RNG at 6-1, they're doing nice.
Yeah, I think RNG looks pretty good too. They're newer players in Cryan and Gala, maybe not as well known. They're not necessarily new players, but they're not as well known as the other players on this team. But they look really good. They look really strong, and RNG looks like they have a new identity put together. They brought down IG the other weekend. They look like they can show that they can play against the stronger players that were the Shy and Rookie, and that this team has a lot of synergy together. And with that, I think if they can continue playing around the carry style that Wei can play, I think this team can play really well.
Okay, and then let's move on to FPX, the last of the top three teams. They're in second. I just wanted to cover them last. This is the team that Nuguri actually came in to replace Khan, and I think Bin left. So FPX, Khan, not Khan, Nuguri, doing Nuguri things. He's still looking in his prime form.
Yeah, I think Nuguri is showing that why he's a world champion. Like FPX looks really good, and Nuguri is showing that he can flex all kinds of different picks, and because of that, it's drawing bans, and FPX can play to a style that they want to, like this full force aggressive style that Nuguri is adapting to very well compared to how he played on Damwon Gaming, like where he played more of a methodical style sometimes, and it's showing that LPL has a lot of talent in FPX and through their other top two teams in EDG and Royal never gives up.
Okay, and then let's move on to the lower half. This lower half, it like these numbers should be replaced, man. They're like, if you looked for this last year, there's no way in like the living earth that these teams should be in the bottom half. JDG, IG, Top, and Suning. They've all like, I don't know what's going on there, man. Suning. Let's talk about Suning first. World finalist. The only member they lost, Sword Art. Their veteran shot caller. Uh, they replaced him, and now they're they're back to their 2018 self at the bottom of the leaderboard. Like, it's really disappointing to see this. Huang Fong was doing so well at Worlds. He was like a real threat. I mean, if just look up a video of Huang Feng's history, it's so sad. And he came up from like poverty. He played on like the worst PC imaginable. He had to juggle school back and forth. He took a shot on League of Legends. His rookie year became a Worlds finalist, and now he's in this state. What's going on in Seeding, man?
I think the biggest problem here for Suning right now is SOFM. Because SOFM is known to be a very carry-oriented style player, but he doesn't play the meta. He plays s- very specific picks, like in Lee Sin and like these carry style junglers that just aren't meta right now, like J4, and they're trying to force these picks. And because of that, Suning is struggling. But there also is hope because recently they announced a patch that in 11.4 that's going to change the jungle and where they're going to lose a bit of XP and gold and in terms of farming. So farming jungles might swing out of meta. So SOFM has hope, and Suning does have hope in that. So we'll see if they'll be able to adjust to that style and see if that playstyle comes around again.
Yeah, and you really see that SOFM just hates meta junglers, man. It's in his name, style of myself. That's what SOFM means. He has this individualistic playstyle. He's really really resilient to change. In World's Finals he played, or now even World's Finals and World's Finals actually, he played tank Rengar in the jungle. No one's ever seen that the entire tournament, and he comes out swinging with 2 wins to basically reverse sweep Top in the semifinals. Uh, he needs to get like he can keep his individualistic playstyle while also playing these meta junglers. It's not like you have to conform to the meta. You can still have some individuality, and it's affecting the entire team. The team hasn't changed at all, so you wouldn't expect them to be that low. But that I guess that's how it is. Let's move on to the two other semifinalists, JDG and Top. To be fair, I have no idea what's going on with these guys. They haven't even changed the roster. This is the same roster, and it just looks like it's not their meta anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with JDG and Top. They look like they're just struggling. Like Knight looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. 369 looks like he's like inting half the time, or he's just doing well half the time. But this is not how they play. Like their style, like Jackie Love, all these players are very well known. They're known to play very carry style oriented. And I think they're just struggling with their identity in terms of how they want to play. And it could be because their jungler Karsa isn't as much of a carry-oriented style player as like other junglers are in the LPL right now. So hopefully with some changes to that, with some maybe some return to the strength in the mid lane and the top lane, maybe Knight and 369 can also show again that they can carry their teams and maybe carry them across the finish line.
Yeah, and it's not it's looking, decently bright for them. They're improving. They're improving. They're definitely not going to stay down there. It's not like them to do that. So like their play style now might be, buffed a little bit. This is definitely not their meta. So, it is what it is, and they got to deal with it. If you're a pro team, you got to adjust to the meta. You got to play to the top of your game, or even just find a counter meta. So they're going to figure that out. They're gonna do it eventually. Let's talk the last team we want to talk about. IG Invictus Gaming. Not too good. Rookie's not doing as well as he should. The Shy is playing these top lane carries, but he's getting outperformed. He used to be known as the best top laner in LPL. You're even in the world in the world championship, and now he's looking like old Khan, where it's either he feeds or he carries.
Yeah, I think the issue with IG right now is that there's a lot of pressure on Rookie and the Shy to carry that team. Like, there's players like XUN and Wink, and these players aren't very as proven, and they're not carrying their games. Like XUN, I feel like is not carrying his weight a lot of time, and because of that, the Shy also struggles, and like because of that, Rookie's also gonna struggle. So I wonder if they really want to put a team around Rookie and the Shy again. Because when IG won that championship, they had a team. And until Rookie and the Shy, like these guys are very key players that can play well, but they also have a very, very like heavy gold gold important playstyle. They're not very like gold efficient. They need these resources. So until they can start funneling these resources into these players again, these players are gonna struggle.
All right, and that's wrapping it up for LPL. Let's go over the standings once again for our Radio Folk. At 12th place, we have Victory 5, 11th, World Finalist Suning Gaming, 10th, Top Esports, 9th, Invictus Gaming. Tied for 6th, we have JDG, LNG, and a new team where Adam, I think they just rebranded. 4th, we have WE and Billy Billy. And 3rd, we have RNG or Royal Never Give Up. Second, we have FPX, and first EDG. Just basically the old guard returns. So next up, we have Valorant. So I'm going to transition over to them.
Oh, wait, guess we gotta fix the cameras a little.
Yeah, we're going to have to fix the cameras. Give me a second.
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't know what happened.
It all shifted.
It's all going downhill from here, boys. So just give us the rundown about Valorant. Tell me what your backgrounds are. Tell how the solo queue is going, and tell what you're a part of. Oh, whoopsies. Just tell us who's tell me what you're a part of, and give me your backgrounds, everybody, while I fix this.
Yeah, so I mean, like I mentioned in the introduction, I'm on the B team for Valorant, but I'm also the IGL currently. Uh, so yeah, that's pretty fun. And then I also am the game lead for the scene overall, so I just help manage all three teams. Just get them set up and everything, but the captain is really the one doing all the in-game stuff.
Like I said, I play for the A team. If we want to get into rank specific, my highest peak was Radiant. That was last act. Currently, I am Heartstruck in the Immortals ranks right now. A bit unfortunate, but we're getting back there. I have a little bit of tier 2 scrim experience, but most of my scrim experience is from the tier 3 scene, which is the college scene. I do love following the Valorant esports team. Favorite team is obviously 100 Thieves because I'm a sucker for Nitro in general. He's been my favorite
Yeah.
CS:GO player,
Yeah.
and he's my favorite Valorant player by far.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Ricky. I'm also on the A team. I'm the captain there, and my highest peak was Immortal 2, and currently I am almost Immortal, but I'm barely high Diamond 3. So hopefully I can get back into Immortal pretty soon and keep grinding away.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So I guess we'll probably go off the actual tournament progress first, and then we'll talk about stuff like signings and all that. So we had challengers in all the major regions this past week. Challengers 1, that is. Challengers 2 is gonna be this week. In North America, we had Sentinels win, making a lower bracket run against Immortals, and they win 3-1 against Immortals. That being said, it wasn't actually a 3-1. Immortals just had a one map advantage from making it from the winners bracket, so it was really a 3-0. Yeah, I guess we'll start off with the actual finals, and then we'll move on from there. So yeah, Immortals and Sentinels, both teams, looking very good. Immortals kind of didn't show up in this game. They kind of felt like they were playing scared the whole time and just gave Sentinels too much respect, and were not playing like they did in the rest of the tournament. And so Sentinels kind of just ran over them. If you looked at the map scores, it was like 13-3 on split, 13-8 on bind, which should have been a win for Immortals considering that they're really good on it, and Sentinels is actually not that good on bind. And then it was 13-4, I think, for Icebox. So yeah, thoughts on these teams or games?
I mean, it's just clearly Sentinels here, just showing exactly why they are the ranked #1 team in the NA so far. Or many people would currently judge them to be the top 1 team. Sinatra again just recently hit rank 1, but I think Asuna stole both 1 and 2 away from him now. I don't know. Immortals just feel like sometimes they kind of depend a lot on Shot Up too, because Shot Up is probably one of the underrated talents of Immortals right
Shop's
now,
insane.
by far. And sometimes it feels like the rest of the team is lacking. Like I see a lot of jokes where like Immortals, like the Nature, who's the IGL, their strats just like Shot Up, go kill, because that's just a general joke. He is that talented. But I don't know. Sentinels, everyone just showed up. Sinatra again, as usual. Shazam's calling, pretty damn good. Sick also is showing up town now. He was a little bit invisible in the CS:GO
Yeah,
scene, but in Valorant he is absolutely popping off.
I think even in Valorant, before like challengers, I feel like he was heavily underrated. Like people were not giving him the credit he really deserved, and then he really popped off in challengers, so much so that everyone's realizing like, oh, like this guy is also incredibly good. Like before, when people talked about Sentinels, it kind of felt like people were like, oh, like Sinatra is incredible and Shazam's pretty good, or like the rest of the team is pretty good, but it's really Sinatra. And now people are like, oh wow, like Sinatra and Sick are both insane, and the rest of this team is also pretty amazing. So like,
Mm-hmm.
like Sick is finally getting the credit he actually deserves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to kind of talk about Sentinels for a little bit more. Back when they played for the first major, they probably had a pretty good chance of winning it all. But unfortunately, Shazam's father passed away, so that kind of put the morale down for them. But they still performed very well, and now here they are again back performing at the top level and taking a #1 spot on the rankings for teams.
Yeah, not to mention the team that Sentinels lost to was 100 Thieves, and it was actually a pretty close game too. They just ended up facing them in the um was it the semis or the quarters? I actually don't remember, but they ended up facing them like earlier than they should have. Could have been Sentinels still had a really good chance of making it to the finals even with all that going on. It's just that 100 Thieves were the better team that day. And yeah, they're the ones that ended up winning first strike. Okay, so then I guess we should talk a little bit more about Immortals then. We did talk about a little about them. Let's just go into more details. This Immortals roster looks really good, which is kind of saying a lot because Immortals, I think, overall has had pretty good rosters, and I say rosters because they keep switching up or they keep like transferring over and over again and adding new players. But I think each time they've looked really solid, and right now they look incredible. Like I would put them in about like the top 5. Actually, yeah, no, I would put them in the top 5.
Yeah, well, they're ranked #4, so they are
Yeah.
proving themselves.
Mm-hmm. Nature and Chemicals, really good addition. Shot Up has been on the team for a little while. And he's been great the whole time. And Gangsta and JC Astani have been on this team the whole time, and they've been pretty consistent. Anything else to say about Immortals, either of you?
Not now. This roster, I'd say, is still pretty fresh. I'm excited to watch them play more and more. But as of now, I still feel like apart from Shout Up, maybe the rest of the team should maybe turn it up a notch, because as of now,
Yeah.
Shout Up is still the star.
Yeah.
And Nature, I guess I agree that while he has a little slack because he's the in-game leader, at the same time, Shazam is also the in-game leader for Sentinels, and I think he's plus 21. He's second on the Immortals versus Sentinels game. So
Yeah. I think Shot Up's doing pretty well. I think the rest of the team has to prove themselves and really step it up for Immortals to really shine and possibly even take a huge event in the near future.
another interesting
I think
thing is
also.
that another interesting
Sorry,
thing
go
is that Sinatra actually picked Reyna this series, which you normally don't see him play a lot. He's usually more of like a Sova and maybe a bit of a Raze. But this time he decided
Yeah.
to pick Sova, and you could see he straight up ran a train over Sentinels. I think he had 13 first bloods the entire series, which is incredible.
That man just plays
I-
anything he wants, and he's amazing.
I think that you can kind of like the Rainer pick kind of works for two different reasons. One, Sinatra's really good, and there's that whole rant earlier about that Shazam had about like right now the game is a lot more about taking gunfights, playing off contact more than utility usage and all that. And if that's the play style to play Raider really works out. But I think another thing too is that we'll probably talk about this when we get to EU, but Reyna on Icebox and Pro Play is actually really good because the way that the angles work is that there's so many angles that you have to actually watch out for that if Reyna plays at an off angle, she can easily just get out without getting traded, right? Just because of the dismiss. Not to mention it's not even that she necessarily needs to play the off angles, but she could just play like the 50-50s and still do the exact same thing. And it just works out a lot better than it would on other maps, because on other maps it's not that 50-50s don't exist, but Icebox is kind of made in a way where all the angles are very parallel to each other, or they're stacked on top of each other, and so there ends up being a lot of corners that you actually need to check. And so if you have the Reyna that's just playing very unpredictable, it's kind of hard to counter, especially on the A site.
Yeah. Once again, you can just put the best player with the best name on Reyna, because Reyna again is an agent that relies on taking and winning those gunfights in order for half her abilities to be useful. And since once again, back with Shazam is that about this game rewards winning those bad fights. Reyna and Jet are probably the top two agents to take those bad fights because they can easily escape. Or
Yep.
Reyna, in the case, because if she wins, gets low, she can just get another pick and then heal up straight up. Maybe Phoenix too, but as of now, Phoenix isn't. Well, Phoenix can be played, but his ult, but his flashes, his util, little bit left to desired.
That's for sure. Let's move on to the team that plays third in this. We'll be moving on to Luminosity, a team that was giving Sentinels a really hard time recently during the NSG Winter Cup. They beat Sentinels in a 5-map series, 3-2, and then here they beat Sentinels in the round of 8 of the playoffs, and then also actually no, it was just a round of 8. So what do you call it? They beat Sentinels twice, and Sentinels beat them finally in the lower finals. But yeah, this team is pretty interesting to me. Interesting to me because one of the reasons after Shazam, I think won. It was either this lower final or the grand final. He was talking about LG and how the way they played is kind of information starving, where they don't use utility because not only are they really playing off contact, but if there's no utility being used, then Sentinels really can't determine a lot of information on who's playing where, or what the holes are currently looking like, all of that. And so LG they're pretty. It kind of goes back to that rant that Shazam was saying earlier of how a lot of the teams are taking back gunfights, they're playing a lot more puggy, not relying on as much on tactics or strategy. And LG kind of seems to be showing that like yeah, that strategy does work. They're kind of like the most extreme example of what Shazam was saying.
Mhm.
So yeah, you guys' thoughts?
As of now, Luminosity Gaming, they have their share of amazing players. I'm pretty sure Proto has the highest headshot percentage of every single Valorant professional, even higher than
Yeah.
Scream, which is props to him. Yeah, boy Dre, he was in the original 100 Thieves roster back when Hiko, and I think there were 4 of the PUBG players. As of
Yep.
now, I'm pretty sure 3 of those PUBG players aren't really signed on any teams. Maybe they are, but probably in lower teams. So props on him for trying to step it up, trying to prove that PUBG players can still compete in Valorant because when the early days of Valorant, all the hype was about all the CS:GO players because the gunplay was relatively similar. So not many people look down usually on the Fortnite, PUBG, maybe the Overwatch players, but once again, Sinatra just showing everyone that Overwatch aim probably still one of the best aim. I feel like Thief though is Thief the Duelist is slightly inconsistent sometimes. Like I think one of the
Yeah.
maps against I think it was Immortals, he went 4-15, but the next map after that he was second frag up on the photo, and then the third map he was once again in like the bottom. So well, I know he is a stellar aimer. I watched stream a couple of times, but once again, I still feel like he needs to work on that consistency because usually at the top it's either yeah boy Dre or a Proto, and a Proto is a Cypher Raze main, mostly plays Cypher, so little bit of a mishap there.
Yeah.
I think Luminosity had a very good run for having a stand-in, and your boy Dre performed actually pretty well. I think he has a very good shot at getting onto another team, another top team like 100 Thieves. And I'm kind of excited for his future because he's definitely put in work to improve as a player, and I hope he stays around.
Yeah, I think something also interesting about LG is that whenever they face like these top teams, so like Sentinels or 100 Thieves, they always end up like playing up to their opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Because during First Strike too, they were actually giving 100 Thieves a very hard time, so much so that they almost didn't. I forget if it was the first or the second qualifier, but they almost didn't pass that qualifier. They were down like 5-10 on Ascent, and 100 Thieves brought it back, but LG making it a close game. So I feel like LG is like a team that is just gonna kind of keep growing, and they're always gonna be like these teams that just end up playing like up to their opponents. Okay, yeah. So then let's move on to the next team, which will be Xset. Now this team is really interesting. They've been making a name for themselves in Tier 2 recently, but I think now it's pretty clear that they're breaking into the Tier 1 scene. Um, they're just very tactically sound. Kind of like we were talking about before with LG, like not like playing a lot, more like more based off the gunfights. Xset, they definitely have strong mechanical players and all, but I feel like they're just in general a very tactically sound team. Thoughts from you guys?
Well, one of the players on Xset is especially on Split. He plays Viper a lot, and he's actually nuts on Viper. I know I have a friend who is Viper one trick in Radiant. He the way he plays around his smokes is really like it's so hard to play around. Even as a teammate, I struggle to play around our own smokes. So it's just interesting to see how we did brings the Viper. Mostly on split though. PLF is like the way the split map works, it's pretty close angles and stuff like that. And the Viper wall is pretty good at isolating those angles, which allows him to take those fights and maybe catch opponents off guard. And both the sites are pretty good for his the Viper ult for post plants or even retakes. And he just shows why Viper should never be like underrated because on certain situations she will have like the best smokes, have the best molly, especially the vulnerabilities. Those will the damage that like you can deal with the mollies. And even if it get grazed by the mollies, you can just shoot them because they're already vulnerable. So
Yeah.
it's just showing how good the util is if you know how to use it properly.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what Eric was saying, we did on the Viper is actually pretty unique because not a lot of teams run the Viper on other maps. Besides, maybe sometimes you'll see it on Icebox. So if Exit can master playing with a Viper on every map, or not even every map, but just like 2 out of the 5, then that'll be pretty good. it'll bring like a different meta into the game, which I think we need to see because right now it's just like really puggy and tactical
At least
based.
in NA.
Yeah, at least in
Yep.
NA. And I think it would if Xet can like really master playing with the Viper, it'll shock the scene, the NA scene, a little more.
Yeah. I think something kind of note, like should have brought this up earlier, but this is also the team that knocked TSM out of this first challengers, which if you weren't keeping up with the tier 2 scene could be somewhat surprising, but if you have been keeping up, you've been able to see this team develop and become really strong over time, so it shouldn't have been that surprising. TSM put a really close game to them. It went, I forget how many overtimes, but it went to overtime on split, which is the third map, and X had finally, or X had, was the one able to clinch it. But yeah, X had really showing overall like they really do deserve to be in the top one, and they're kind of bringing Viper. They're making Viper more well known in NA. Other teams are using it too, but I feel like this team is the one that's like making it very prominent. And we've already been seeing Viper used a lot in EU, especially on the on Icebox. And so we'll see if NA will have like a similar evolution. All right, let's move on to the next team. Envy. So Envy, very strong team at the start, but it kind of feels like they've been falling off a little. They've kind of had they've been pretty inconsistent. They've been able to beat teams that are like on the lower end. Or it's kind of bad to say lower end, but on the lower end of tier 2, they're able to solidly beat them. But whenever they face like one of these top T1 teams, or like these teams that are now breaking into tier 1, they end up falling very short. And I don't know, Envy kind of seems like a team that's like slipping to me. Like they were definitely very like solidly tier 1 before, but now they're kind of falling more and more into the low tier 1. I wouldn't say tier 2 yet, but if this keeps going, they'll definitely keep falling. But yeah, your thoughts?
I can't really speak much for MB because I don't really follow them as much. I do notice that they are struggling. They lost to Xset and Luminosity during these champion tours right now, and from what I can see from the stats is I guess maybe Caboose mostly. I'm not going to call him out specifically, but it's not just him mostly, but like a lot of their it just looks like they're just lacking in firepower in general because I can see that a lot of their AERs is not as high as like the opposing teams. For Crashies is probably a very good player, I guess. He his utility usage from what I see is actually really good. Like he has the Sky and the Sova, and overall he's probably one of the players to watch for as well as Food too. Food
Yeah.
was probably well known around the Valorant scene. I think he was the first or second Radiant when the ranking system first came out, and I think he's been trying to hard climb the Valorant leaderboard right now. I don't remember what place he is now, but I think a couple days ago he was rank 1 before Snatch took it from him. And now Asuna from 100 Thieves both has 2 accounts that are ranked 1 and 2.
Yeah, I
And then
mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
what I've seen from Team Envy is that like 4 of them are from CS, and these are like the quote unquote washed up players from CS that are trying out Valorant. And at first, I think they were looking pretty promising, but like looking at their games, their tactics have been okay, but there's a lot of counterplay with their strats that a lot of teams have been abusing. So I feel like they just got to work on like I don't know, just FNS has to work on his IGLing and mid round calling, or else they're gonna pretty much, as you said, fall down to tier 2, tier 3
Yeah.
more than
And
likely.
I think something to note too is like when they initially added Food and Crashies, they were looking really good, and that maybe that was a little bit of like a honeymoon phase, like new players, like we've got like all this new stuff going on, all these new ideas and everything, and you know maybe they're experiencing a little bit of that, and maybe this was just like writing on the wall of what was actually to come. But I still kind of feel like this team can turn it around. I feel like the people on this team are like pretty talented. Maybe not like Food and Crashes are good mechanically, and FNS is like a very smart player and all. Maybe they're not like super mechanically strong as other teams, but I feel like this team can still turn it around It's just whether or not like they will actually make the right decisions too. All right, let's move on to next team. We're gonna do NRG. So NRG going out very early on, losing to 2-0 to Genji and then losing 2-0 to Xset. Yeah, this team looking very shaky. Like they're looking like they were on the upward trajectory before uh challengers. Right after first strike, before challengers, they looked like they were looking better and better with the addition of Shanks, and finally having a solid roster rather than trialing a bunch of people. But this performance from them, I mean, they did good to qualify for the main playoffs, but overall, it just wasn't an amazing showing. Thoughts from you guys?
They just seem to be like overly aggressive sometimes, especially even though it's failed many times. They try to be aggressive, they die again. Maybe they try to get on a different spot, but then it still doesn't work out. Sam again, he was one of the upcoming talents in NA for CS. Decided to swap to Valorant. He's showing why he is still to being one of the talents. A couple of times, I guess EU kind of disappeared on a couple of maps. But I think one of the series he had, his computer was actually having problems there. So
Yeah, and also, not to mention, EU did state that he will be taking a break for a while for personal reasons. So
mhm.
that's also something. But yeah. Anyway, continue with what you're saying.
I don't know. I just think they're overly aggressive. I think only Som is like the only one playing like playing like smartly. Like he will, if he wants to be aggressive, then he'll be aggressive, and if it works advantage, he won't like I guess overextend, and like he'll be like smart enough to fall back instead of getting like traded 1-for-1, which usually is not what you want. You want to get a pick and fall off in order to keep that man advantage, and then just play around it. I feel like he's the only one that actually understands how to do that, and the rest of the team are just kind of pugging, like they're just running at them and trying to win those fights, but they're not winning the fights. But they don't
Yeah.
they don't fix that. They go again and they try to run at them again from a different angle, and they still don't win that fight, which is very puggy, I guess. But like we're talking about the Champions Tour, it's like a
Yeah.
tournament, so they probably might have to fix that. But overall, it's a pretty good showing from I guess a fresh roster. I think how long ago did they sign Shanks? I feel like he's
I want to say maybe like a month and a half ago. I actually don't remember the exact timeline. It
On
was like
the
right
it was on the
after
12th of
12th. Okay.
January.
so yeah,
Okay,
still
Yeah,
so
still
yeah.
relatively still
just under a
relatively
month.
fresh. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they
Wait,
also signed Infinite recently too.
Hmm.
I think that was like a
December,
little.
December
Oh,
17th,
December 12th. Oh, okay.
December 17th. That's it.
Okay.
So yeah, like 2 months.
Mhm.
Yeah, still fresh roster. They will improve over time. We'll just see how much they'll improve by if they learn from those mistakes.
Yeah,
And
it was kind of hard for me to watch them. Like I haven't watched them too much, but like as Eric was saying, they're very puggy, and I think Sam is their best player, which it shouldn't be that way because like Sam's like the younger one. I mean, I guess it should be that way because like Prodigy, young, coming up. But I feel like Daps or especially Daps, like a little bit older, should have some more should be more passive, like know how to play in the style of their team because they know they have firepower. They like pug it out way too much, and it just kind of upsets me to watch that talent go to waste during these matches versus when they could be playing a little bit more tactical and a little bit smarter, just slow down their pace and use their information efficiently.
mhm.
Yeah.
Very young team.
Yeah, I think something to note too. Like Shanks come on the team and came on the team, and everyone, it was kind of a mixed response from the community overall because stuff in this past. But people really expect him to be mechanically strong, and he no doubt is. It's just that he's also very inconsistent and sometimes takes like gunfights he shouldn't be, and which ends up
Mhm.
costing them rounds. So I don't think Shanks is really a liability, but he definitely needs to learn to like tone it down more. Like he can't be trying to be the star player every single time. Like he
Mhm.
is definitely like one of the stronger players overall, but I think sometimes he's trying to carry too much.
Yeah, he's one of those flashy type players, the one that goes for those highlight plays, something like that.
Mhm.
And when it comes to like a team game like this, usually those players play a bit selfishly because they try to chase those frags for the win.
Yeah, he
And
was. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I feel like he needs to take like a step back from that. Try to play with the team more with the team in the mind instead.
Yeah, he also I think at least on broadcast he was the first person to play Yoru like in a professional match. It was a seeding match, but still interesting to see the Yoru finally come out. Unfortunately, I don't think Energy really got a lot out of it because they lost Bind anyway, and I'm not really sure how much Yoru uh fits Shanks' styles because Yoru is a very outplay agent rather than out aim taking gunfights. So yeah,
I mean, at the same time, Yoru is still pretty new to like. It's just an agent that's recently released.
yeah,
But like with the more released agents with coming from Sky, we don't see Sky being picked that much, except for Sabrosa, who's been trying to introduce I guess Battle Sky because he says that Sky's flashes are much better than Phoenix's flashes, which I would agree on that. But then there comes with the Phoenix's ability to heal himself, so he can be played pretty well as a duelist too. Not to mention his ult is, I'd say, like 100 times better than Sky's ult. Sky's ult's mainly for information mostly, but I still say like at least 75% of the time that information that the Sky ult gives you is probably you already know that someone's there. It's just a bit annoying and it's not that useful.
yeah. Skyle kind of reminds me of like a Cypher ult, but combined with like a Sobadron, where you kind of
Mhm.
use it to you kind of follow it because it can be the one to like quote unquote peek for you, but it's also giving you information on where people are, like if they're on the site or if they're all actually at A or whatever. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think Sky will see more play as time goes on. When during First Strike, she had just come out, so I don't think people experimented enough with her. But I feel like over time, people will understand like how to actually
Mhm.
play, and I feel like she will get a lot more playtime, especially in NA in a region that like doesn't actually use a lot of breach and goes for the Sova instead for the information. And I think
Mhm.
because Sky offers a little bit of both, maybe she can actually see a lot more play in NA.
Mhm. As of now, the only utility that Yor brings to the team is his ult is pretty good for gathering info. His teleportation again is like a jet dash, so it's selfish ability. His flash is pretty good, like it's a very good pop flash. You can bounce and you can throw pretty hard. His footsteps, I'm not too sure what I think about the footsteps to be honest. Because while I think that it's great for like I guess distracting info, I don't feel like it'll work like well in like a very high elo unless you can manage to place it like somewhere smart. Because
Yeah,
the way the footsteps work is that they're very linear, like they're very moving. They move they move consistently in the direction. So a high elo player, like a top tier player, can like recognize just like decoys in CS. Like when someone throws a decoy, you can kind of tell it's a decoy just based on like the rhythm
mhm,
of like its shooting. And
Mhm.
that's what I can think about. That's what I think about the same with the Yoru steps because the Yoru steps, everyone's walking straight. Normally, if it's going to be a clutch situation, no one like a 1v1 or 1vx whatever, the person the person that's clutching the physical Yoru, no one's gonna be walking like in like stomping around everywhere in like the top tier. They're trying to be as silent as
yeah.
possible. So I feel like those steps aren't really gonna do that much unless you can fake drops with it.
Yeah, the Euro steps are like a gimmick, and also there's this YouTube video out there where you can actually tell the difference between Euro steps and normal footsteps.
Hmm.
And actually, my headphones are bass boosted, so it's actually way easier for me to tell because Euro steps are they have like a little bit more of a thud to it versus like normal footsteps. So
Hmm.
I feel like in the very very high elo, it's just a gimmick, and most pro players will figure it out pretty quickly that it's not
Yeah.
actual person moving.
It would be probably better if you could like activate it and then like immediately like cancel it so you can fake like a drop when it like for some clutch situations. I don't know if it actually makes any drop noises. Like once again, I haven't seen many Yoru plays in like my ranked games, so I can't really tell. But like if you could like fake like a drop with it, then that would actually be very useful because as of now, I don't think Euro steps go over the edges. I think they just stop once they hit like an edge and they don't fall
Um,
off.
I think they actually do, but I'm not sure if they make the drop sound.
Well,
But
if they
yeah,
do make the drop sound, it could be a game changer sometimes because a drop
yeah,
is pretty hard to fake. Well, a
Mhm.
drop is pretty hard to like figure out if it's a real or fake.
mhm,
So that would be
yeah.
the good one.
All right, let's move on to the next team here. We're gonna talk about Andbox. Another team that went out really early, losing 2-0 to Envy and then 2-0 to Sentinels in the lower right after that. Yeah, I mean this team, I think before like, I'm sorry, not even before, but a little bit after First Strike and also leading up to First Strike, they were kind of like regarded as a team that was, starting to climb the ranks, maybe starting to break into Tier 1. And I think right now they haven't necessarily lost that sentiment, but this isn't really like the result that you were kind of expecting from them. They were always regarded as a very tactically sound team more than, very mechanical. Um, Android is like the one standout, very mechanically strong player, but I think the rest of them are just like very smart, more than they are mechanically strong. And so yeah, it was kind of disappointing to see them go out this early in the what do you call it, in the 200 qualifiers. Yeah, thoughts from you guys?
I mean, regardless, I think that's a decent showing actually. Like they're not like completely like stomped. Like it wasn't like a 2-0, 13-3 stomp. They put up decent rounds, I think, in the quarterfinals or the qualifier ones. They had put up 11 rounds against Sentinels, which would be the eventual winners. So I think that it's a pretty good showing from them. And once again, as you mentioned, Android probably the standout player, the carry of the team. He's been known for having like a very crisp aim. I think yeah, I think he's like the player to watch out for. The rest of the team, though, I feel like they could pick it up a notch. But as of now, I don't think this is actually a terrible showing for them. I think it's pretty good for like a team that I'd say for myself, I haven't really heard about them except for when I watch Android stream, so I don't really follow them that much. But I think this is a pretty good showing from them, and I look forward to see like if they will get better and such.
Yeah.
Grow as a team together.
A specific player from Andbox is Poach that I've been looking at. I was kind of disappointed because Poach, coming from Fortnite, before playing Fortnite, had a lot of CS experience. He played a bit, and his KPR was only 0.63 and his rating was a 0.89. I was really disappointed to see him not perform very well, considering how much experience he had. And overall for Andbox, it was a decent showing. I feel like they could definitely step it up. And I don't know who their IGL is on that team. I'm assuming it's
It's
Android.
Poach.
Oh, it is Poach.
It's Poach.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. Poach has been a pretty good IGL for Fortnite, but I don't know if those skills are really transferring over to Valorant quite yet. So we'll see.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what you mentioned before, Poach. You know, he could be a little better, but I feel like overall he's pretty tactically sound. It's kind of crazy to me, like like people, we kind of touched on this earlier, but like, the era of all the CS kids being the ones to dominate this game is kind of coming to a close. I feel like not necessarily a close, but like, um, these a lot of the Fortnite kids, the Overwatch kids, they're all finding like a lot of success, especially like in EU. Like 3 of the Fnatic players are Fortnite players. And then the Econ V2 is also a Fortnite player. But yeah, I think Fortnite is actually like really like all the Fortnite players are really underrated when it comes to this game. Okay, last team we're gonna talk about before moving on to EU is Gen G. Now, the reason I saved this team for last is to kind of to transition into T1 later on. But yeah, Gen G, they had an okay showing. They what do you call it? Lost to Immortals in the upper semis, 2-0, and then they lost to Sentinels, which we know is the eventual winners. The showing wasn't terrible. I think this was actually the first time we saw them with the signing of Kusta. So, the team definitely, but then become worse. But I'm not sure how much the signing of Kusta actually made them better. They kind of feel like the same from when they had Player One. But yeah, thoughts from you guys?
Again, it's one of those, I guess, I wouldn't say like lower level teams, but it's just one of those teams that I find it hard to stand out because they don't really have like a very, very stand up player. All the players seem to be pretty balanced together, I guess, in terms of skill level and probably mechanics. Maybe Kusta has a slight advantage because he is a CS veteran. I'm not too sure about the red. He
I
is
would
like a
say Quinn is also a really strong player mechanically. But sorry, go on.
yeah, but like Kusta once again has been known pretty well around the NA scene, I guess a couple years ago. So like maybe some people argue that he is one of those wash players because you don't really see him that often. But what he was on Team Liquid at one point a couple years ago. So yes, he does have that CS mechanical skill. So I do feel like the signing of him is probably better for the team. But again, this is one of those newer teams that we have yet to see grow. This is a decent showing for them, I guess. They took a map off Sentinels, which I'd say is pretty good too. So And then the rest of the games were also pretty close too. Like there was not like again not 13-3 stomps. They had like 9 rounds, 11 rounds. So pretty, I'd say it's a pretty good showing from them. And let's see what we can do in the future too.
Yeah. Memo, thoughts from you? Oh, you're muted.
I haven't really been keeping up with Genji, so I don't really got anything. Kusa's a pretty good CS player. GMD was also a okay CS player, so we'll see where they go.
Okay. Yeah, so kind of like I mentioned before, the reason I saved this team for last is because it was actually very recent, like right before we started going live. But we know that Brax and AZK, you know, they have been recently dropped from T1. And Automatic has been signed, which we'll go more into later. But there's some speculation that which you know, very very light speculation, but the speculation that the Brax and AZK might be actually going to Genji just because a lot of the Gen G staff is starting to have started following both of them. Now, you know, Twitter following doesn't necessarily mean that it's confirmed, but a lot of times it does have a track history of showing that yes, this is a move that's happening. But yeah, let's take this time to talk about T1. So they're signing Braxton AZ or sorry, dropping Braxton AZK and they've signed Automatic. It's not that the Automatic signing is bad, but this is just really weird to me because I feel like T1 overall was a team that was starting to become very good with what they had. It's just that they did not figure out the roles or the playstyle very well. During first strike, they weren't terrible. In the beginning, they were terrible. Like at the beginning of first strike, but towards the end of first strike, they were actually starting to show that they like could hang in the top 8. But now they changed their roles for challengers. There wasn't really enough to tell whether or not the roles swap had a big effect or not, because when we did see it, it was against a bunch of low level teams, and then when it was against top level teams, it wasn't anything great in particular. But yeah, I don't know. Thoughts on the automatic signing and the drop of Braxton AZK?
Brax did surprise me a bit because he is again regarded probably one of those like NACS prodigies. AZK I would maybe understand a bit, but AZK is also more of a support player too, right? But then again, Brax I think was the one put on Sentinels too.
Yep.
I'm not. I'm still. I haven't seen again. I haven't seen Automatic play Valorant, so I wouldn't know exactly what role he would be. But my assumption that maybe he would pick up the Sentinel role and then start lurking. It, yeah, I don't know. We still get to figure out their like their last player, right? Because they've dropped 2 players.
Yeah, I mean,
They need
actually,
one.
well, the according to Battlefied, the last person that they have on the roster listed is Curry, which I honestly don't know anything about. So
Okay,
that's apparently the last player. Yeah.
I have seen Curry around a couple times on Twitter. So again, one of those Valorant ranked players probably. We'll figure out. We'll see how he performs because I don't again yeah like you said I don't know anything about him either. So I mean T1 did have a couple of good showings with the Braxton ZK roster. I think the back when I think was the first strike, the 100 Thieves versus T1 game was pretty close actually. Like it was
Yeah.
honestly a pretty nail biter to watch. Like it looked like T1 was actually showing their form. So the fact that they're dropping this Braxton ETK, I'm kind of surprised honestly.
Yeah, and I don't know. For me personally, like everything about this move kind of just shouts like internal struggles because they're making like this really big roster change while challengers is going on, right? So like generally, like you would if you were going to make this change, why not just wait until challengers is over? You know, like it's only like what 1 month left, so I don't know. It's just really weird the whole timing of this change. But yeah, Memo, thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think Automatic being signed this early is pretty surprising because he just stopped playing CS for Gen G, and he was looking for offers for other CS:GO teams. And then I wake up one day and he signed a T1 for Valorant, and that was kind of a shock to me. I never really saw him switching over at least this quickly because he still had a pretty good future in CS. I felt he just needed a better team or just in a better environment, and I feel like he has a lot to prove because I haven't really seen him play Valorant a lot, and I hope T1 plays pretty well because I do love the players that played on there. The old iBuyPower roster is now split again, so we'll see how they do.
Yeah, I think like this whole move, I'm not really sure what T1 is actually trying to go for with this, because it's not that Automatic is a bad player, but again, like kind of like I mentioned before, like first of all, why not just keep this roster? But second of all, the whole role swap thing was really weird to me because me like during first strike they were showing really they kind of figured out the roles when they swapped Spider to Duelist, but it's just that their play style wasn't wasn't as clean as it should have been. Right at the beginning, they're playing really slow on attack, and they were just they did nothing on their attack rounds. But then they kind of cleaned that up, and then they were showing they were becoming stronger and stronger, and then Spider was moved on to the Duelist. But then for challengers, we saw that Brax was now on the Jet, even though Skadoodle was like very strong on the Jet, and I don't know. It was really weird. I don't know what T1 is actually trying to do with this roster, and I'm not really sure like what is even the trajectory they want to go with Automatic, because that kind of throws things for a loop again, like who's gonna be playing what. Also, they have a new coach, but the coach hasn't done anything in esports before at all. He's like a sports psychologist, and also not to mention their old coach Fraud. Uh, said he was leaving due to ethics reasons, which you could speculate all day on what that means. But yeah, I mean, they like T1 didn't even put an announcement out for that. Fraud had to announce that himself.
I mean, ethics reason, I think more specifically was talking about he disagreed the way the team was run, right? Which is happens to a lot of players. You can see that happen to League and Belter too. He got benched because they called it attitude issues, but in reality, most people said that he just didn't, because no one could see Pujols as being toxic too, right? So it's just more like he just disagreed on the way team runs, and that can like hurt the chemistry a lot. So him leaving was probably the smart choice if he didn't agree with the management too, because you need that team chemistry if you want to win those games.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, and then Memo, any thoughts from you? Lastly, before we move on.
No, you guys covered it pretty well.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, let's move on to EU then, unless there's something you guys want to talk about in NA that we didn't already cover.
No, let's move on
No.
to EU.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So EU. This the what you see on screen right now isn't really a proper representation of everything that went down, just because the format is so scuffed in EU. But we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But yeah, so the 4 teams to qualify for Challengers 2 were NIP, Monkey Business, which is rumored to be OG, Wave Esports, which was kind of a surprise, and then FPX. So yeah, let's first talk about NIP. Um, Now, NIP in the past, they've kind of been like the immortals of EU, where they make a lot of roster changes. But I think now they've finally figured out something solid with Existence coming into the roster. Now he goes by a different name now, and honestly, I'm not sure, I don't know how to pronounce the name, so I'm not even gonna attempt to. But yeah, Existence. Now on this roster. So thoughts from you guys?
A little bit disappointing from G2 because I'm pretty sure they are regarded as the best team, the top team in EU too. They had a pretty strong powerhouse. You have Mixwell, the Jet Opera, Petit Tech, pretty good on smokes. Artists, I think he's the in-game leader. Regardless, I don't know, but regardless, Artist Sova is nuts. His utility usage is pretty good. So it's just, it's a bit disappointing. Like we expected a lot more, and I guess how long did they have a newest edition? How long did they have Zeke for?
Zeke. They
Yeah.
dropped David P shortly after First Strike, and then
Mhm.
like I think a week or something after they dropped him, they had signed Zeke. So it's been a little bit, but not like they've definitely had a little bit of time to work together. I think one of the bigger issues with EU as a whole is that there's not a lot of competition. So like the whole match experience versus like scrim experience is kind of skewed, you know.
I feel like a
Um,
lot of people would actually disagree with that. Like, they'd say EU is probably one of the more competitive regions because,
well, no. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, like once again, like I think the amount of immortal players in EU versus NA. Then again, EU does have a big player base, but I think the amount of immortal players is probably like 3,000 more than NA, if I remember correctly. Um,
I think it's more than that. But what I was trying to get at was not that like it's less competitive. EU, I feel like overall is the better region. It's just that there's not a lot of tournaments in EU, right?
yeah,
Or
that's
at
fair.
least big tournaments. and so a lot of the matches like is when like Riot themselves or like some sort of big sponsors putting up the tournaments, right? Because um before this we had the Red Bull home ground, and that was the only tournament since First Strike, while NA had like two or three. Um, so it's just that there's not like a lot of actual like stuff to compete in EU as regularly. Not to mention the
Mhm.
formats are shit. Or
Yeah.
whoops, I should answer that. But yeah. But yeah. Anyway, Memo.
I feel like the addition of Existence, old Counter Strike player, a legend, some might call him, uh, probably probably helping out a lot within the scene within shoot, what's the team? NIP, because having that old guy to IGL you and like kind of structure the team around you or around them, I guess, would be something that like young talent needs in Valorant, especially in the EU scene. Like not a lot of CS players went to Valorant in the EU scene. Uh, so having someone like Existence and IGLing right off the bat really helped them out. I feel because structures in EU are kind of different from NA from when I watch. So having that EU structure in EU versus like an NA structure, definitely like as you saw, they beat G2, which is ranked number one right now. I think they're still ranked number one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
If I
yeah.
remember correctly, a lot of these teams are also advocating for like double eliminations too, because
I mean, yeah, not only double eliminations, but actually having best of threes because the formats in EU have literally just they've been plagued with best of ones for like like why nobody knows.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's really I say funny, but it's more unfortunate than it is funny. But like when they announced this format, Riot themselves were like, "Sorry guys, like we messed up on the format. Like we'll do better next time." And then the format for Challengers 2 gets leaked, and it's even more BO1s. Like this was like
Yeah.
BO1s until round of 32. Challengers 2 in EU is best of ones until round of 8. So like you have to get to the top 8 to stop playing best of ones, and it makes no sense why like that's actually a thing. Like best of ones is terrible. That was established in CS:GO a long time ago. The esports are very similar when it comes to the spectating and like the competitive experience. So I don't know why they're running BO1s.
well, with the amount of traction and drama this is creating, we're gonna hope to see if Riot will actually change it because now the coverage, like you said, is not very good at all. Like
Yeah,
it's pretty hard to watch. You can't do co-streams, you can't do watch parties, and in
yeah.
NA you have like top streamers like Myth, Ninja, doing watch parties for all of these teams. There's tons of coverage. They get like 70K viewers. EU,
Not, sorry, not to mention there aren't even any mainstreams. There aren't even any mainstreams until like the round like until the very like end of the bracket. So there's there's like there's not even a lot of exposure for EU, which is really weird. But okay, anyway, moving on to the next team, we have Monkey Business, which is rumored to be OG. Now they're the second team to qualify, beating 2-0 against Guild Esports. Now Guild, being a team that was highly regarded in EU. They were. Oh, do I stop talking for now, or do I just keep
No,
going?
you're good. I'm
Oh,
scuffed. I'm mega
Scuffed.
scuffed.
okay. Okay, I'll keep going. I'll keep going. But yeah, Guild yeah they used to be known as Bonk very early on. Now the whole Bonk roster is back together on Guild, and a lot more was expected from this team. When you watched them play against Monkey Business, it was really weird because they were kind of playing like an NA style, and Monkey Business, not that they didn't really play well, but they also gave Guild a lot of respect, but they still ended up winning just because Guild did not play off anything. So I don't know. Guild very disappointed showing. There was a team that like people expected a lot out of, and they really did not show up. Yeah, thoughts from you guys?
I can't really speak of this. I'm honestly, I don't have any knowledge of these two teams at all.
Okay.
Looking through the stats, the only player I can recognize is Draken because he is again a CS player known for his opping and his unfortunate 30-degree window. I can see that he has picked up the Jet too, so I assume he's also opping for the team too. I don't know. I can't speak much for this at all.
All right. Yeah, Memo.
Yeah, I got nothing on these guys, unfortunately.
I guess I will say Monkey Business also like um something interesting about them is that they're also a bunch of Overwatch players on that roster.
Mm.
So Unko, AKM, and Tavik, all former Overwatch players, and they seem to be doing decent. But I think Element is like the big standout player on that. Okay, yeah. So let's move on to the third team, Wave Esports, winning over Fnatic, which is a little bit of an upset. Wave definitely looked really good, but Fnatic is also the team that came second in EU First Strike. They were also previously known as Summon FC, but this is their first this is their first game signed under the Fnatic organization. And I want to say that it was like a disappointing showing, but it's just unfortunate that they didn't clinch out this win and qualify because they are a very very strong team. Um, like the strategies that you see from this team, like you really do not see anywhere else. They're also like one of the few teams that runs Viper on bind. Um, Even though like Viper's played a lot more in EU, but that's more so in on Icebox. The other maps not so much, but they run a lot on bind, and their bind is incredibly good. Like I think them and G2 have like the highest win rate on bind right now, but I might be wrong on that. But yeah, thoughts from you guys?
Kind of unfortunate for Fnatic to lose this one out. I know they just recently got signed, but they've been playing as a team for a while, if I'm not mistaken. So, kind of getting beat up by Wave Esports might hurt them a little bit egotistically, but hopefully they can bounce back from this and move forward and continue building the Fnatic name in EU Valorant.
Yeah, I think this team too, like they're not the type of team that like with just one loss is gonna boom them because they seem to be very like they seem to be on their toes and like just have like a very strong foundation. So them losing this, like I don't think it's a big deal. I think they'll come back in challengers too just fine, and like they'll be fine to qualify. All right, last team for EU. FPX versus Team Liquid. FPX wins 2-0, but something to note: both of these games went into double overtime. So even though the scoreline shows that it was a stomp, it actually was not. Yeah, FPX. I forgot actually who they signed instead. They dropped Meadow, and I forget who they signed instead of Memo. Or sorry, not Memo, Meadow. I forgot who they replaced Meadow with, but they still look the same. As in they're still a very strong team. I don't think them dropping Meadow actually you know made a huge difference, but they're still very strong. Team Liquid also looking very strong. Their Haven attack very very weak. They were like 9-3 on the defense, and they somehow only were able to secure like 4 rounds or something at the end. But yeah, they were looking very good in the Red Bull home grounds. Losing 3-2 to G2. But yeah, so that's from you guys.
Team Liquid, the EU version of C9 Tens and Friends, except it's Scream and Friends now. I remember seeing that Scream again is the hyper carry. It's like this team is based around Scream because he has to get those frags too. But like when teams are based around that, and the 4 players are designed to support them, when he dies, it's almost as if the round is almost over. EC1S, I don't know is that how you say his name?
Eccles.
Eccles.
Eccles. Yeah.
Eccles. Okay, I know he is their in-game leader, but he needs to bring more firepower to the team, is what I say too. Like again, being an in-game leader is like a reason to start slacking. Just because Shazam is showing he can still frag too. So this Team Liquid is known to be very strong too. I just feel like the rest of the team is just not that really like T1 material yet. They can still improve. Scream is like at least 5 levels above everyone else in the team. You can see his reflected in the stats. He was the only one that was positive plus 18, and he had almost 280 yards too, with 15 first bloods too. So the team is supposed to support him, but he also was the first one to die 11 times too. So because he's the one taking those fights, those risky fights too. And I'm not sure. I haven't watched this game, but from what I can tell, just from watching like a bunch of these highlights and stuff, it's just Scream and Friends, just like Tens and Friends. So
I will say, I will say though, I think during First Strike, Soulcast, he definitely didn't perform that well during First Strike, but I think here or ever since in home grounds and in challengers, he was playing really well. Like he might not show like a lot of it in necessarily the stat lines, but I think overall, like if you actually watch him, his utility usage, how he like backs up his team is actually like very good. Um, I don't know, like the whole Tens and Friends thing does kind of ring true, but I don't think it's as strong as like an like as a like one-on-one comparison in the past, because I think Tens and Friends was like definitely very true, but I think here like at least TL is a little bit better at supporting Scream than I think C9 was at Tens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, Memo, thoughts from you?
Honestly, for how long Team Liquid have been established for in the EU Valorant scene, I feel like Scream either might leave or they might rebuild a team around Scream because it's not looking too hot. They're not even in the top like 20,
I
I
think
believe.
I think Scream recently said that he wants to stay with this team for a while because he knows that like the either the stats, like, or not the stats, but like the showings, like he, even though they've never won a big tournament, he says that like he his idea, like not only his but like Coach Sliggy's like ideas for the team are like very long term, and so right now they might not be like winning, but he thinks that like they're on the trajectory to just be like a solid team overall, like to just be very solid the entire time and like very consistent. So I don't know, like I think Scream like or I think the team overall definitely just like finally needs to secure like a win in EU. It's just that like it is long term. It's just taking a while.
I don't know why I said they're not top 20. They're number 4, but I mean, what I meant to say they're in the top 20 and they haven't won a single event versus like these other teams that are like they've won qualifiers, but I feel like they need to prove
Not like
themselves
a big.
and like finally win something. Like
Yeah.
I think they went second against G2 in the Red Bull tournament. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
It was very it was very close to.
that was a pretty good showing of them. So if they could bring around like that caliber of consistency, then I feel like they could definitely take a victory in EU, and hopefully global events come soon so we can see how they
Yeah.
compete in NA as well.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I guess one other small, not small. One other thing to note about EU, Heretics got knocked out very early to Entro Peak, which was knocked out way later on by Monkey Business, and Heretics being the first strike winners. They're also not playing with Nisao. I honestly don't know how to say his name, but yeah, they weren't playing with him. They got knocked out in the best of one because EU things. And then also Vitality enter with Frenzy Go Kill, and they also get knocked out because BA1s. So yeah, hopefully we'll see more of those teams in Challengers 2, and if they qualify. Um, yeah. Anything else you guys want to add on before we move on?
Not too much. I just know there's a strong on ECL cheating because I think they're talking about his Battalion 1944, I think, where he actually got banned by the game dev himself. But again, there is no concrete evidence apart from some suspicious clips. But like many CS players have these suspicious clips. So in the end, if there's no official statement from the
Russia.
actual developer, then there's no really point of calling him for cheating.
Mhm. All right, I think that kind of does it all for Valorant. So I'm gonna move it on to Isaac, and he can help introduce everything for Apex.
All right, everybody, I am back. So we're gonna now move on to Apex. Thank you, everybody, though, for staying and tuning in. We have a very special guest with us for our very first episode. Uh, I'm I'm really looking forward to these guys. I play Apex with them all the time. They're the Apex Sparks winners. Sparks used to be a collegiate league, but recently they
Your voice is
switched over.
cutting out a lot.
Oh, my bad. So let me repeat that again. We have a very special guest with us. We have I don't know what they want to go by, but as a team, they are 303 Academy Apex team. I play with them a lot. They're really fun to play with. They're really nice guys. I invited them for our first episode for our podcast. So I appreciate them taking their time out of their day to come and make the first episodes that much better. They play Apex for 303. If I didn't mention that, I'm capping so hard on these cutouts. Uh, I recently met them. They're really good people. I love playing Apex with them. I mean, what else could I say? They're just fun to play with. really skilled at their game, and once I get this cut in, we will move on. So everybody, welcome our special guests, 303 Academy. Right under me, if you can see that, we have Sticks. Under Sticks, we have Escape. I'll just call them by their real names after. So Sticks is actually Ethan. Not Ethan. Nick. I'm capping. So hard. Under Sticks, that's Ethan. Escape. And right below him is Calfon, or Calvin. And well, welcome guys. To introduce yourselves. Say what you got to say. You know.
Thanks, Isaac. Yeah, I'm Nick. I'm a third-year mechanical engineer at Northeastern University up in Boston. Apex is my first competitive game. Before that, I was on Xbox playing Halo. Never really got into the competitive scene there, but I watched it a lot, and I'm just excited. I like playing Apex. Yeah.
All right. Hi, my name's Ethan. I go to Temple University. I'm a music student there. And I used to play Team Fortress 2 competitively before Apex. And then after Apex came out, I switched over and been playing with Nick and Calvin for the last year or so, I'd say.
What's up? I'm Calvin. I also go to Northeastern University with Nick. I'm also a third year, but I'm electrical engineering, and been playing Apex since launch, and just immediately fell in love with it. Like, it just hits different. What can I say? But no, in all seriousness, it's the only battle royale that really caught my interest, and yeah, I'm just staying with it, and it's my first competitive FPS as well. I wasn't too big into FPS before, but learned pretty quickly. And yeah, and now we represent 303 Academy. Me, Ethan, and Nick, and yeah, we just vibe and play Apex pretty much. Play competitive tournaments.
All right. So you heard that they are, you know, the boys. They were the Apex Sparks winner. Come I think a couple weeks ago, or actually a month ago. A month ago. Yes. Um. So you know they're really good. Yeah. I love playing with these guys. So we have a lot to get into. Let's talk season 8, man. Just started a week ago, and people are already pred. You know what? Just go for it. You don't want to go to school, don't go to school. Don't listen to me. Actually, go to school though. Let's talk about the most important thing: the man on the title screen, the man on the promotion, Fuse. So the new character Fuse, he's basically a explosion specialist. His passive is basically old grenade pre-nerf. So you hold 2 of each grenade in a slot instead of 1. You know, it gives me PTSD, but whatever. Uh, his Q is a knuckle cluster. It basically is a mini thermite, essentially. I would say. It stuns you, in quotes, stuns you. You can't run through it, but it's a little annoying. I wouldn't say it's the best thing. And then we have his ultimate Z, or whatever you bind it to, if you're a pad player. His napalm strike, essentially, it shoots a mortar, it explodes in a huge ring, and it lays down napalm. It's really I say this character is really interesting. He's not like OP like Horizon when she was released. I think he's a well balanced character, and I just want you guys' opinion on him. You know, let's start it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Fuse is in an interesting spot. Currently, I think against this current meta, we're seeing a lot of Horizons, a lot of Wraiths, a lot of Gibraltars. We're seeing a lot of legends that either directly or indirectly counter some of his abilities. And I think because of that, he's maybe not seeing as much immediate play as he might in another season. I think he's definitely pretty balanced. His ultimate doesn't really do much in the way of damage, but can zone. And the grenades is probably what stands out to me the most. Being able to carry 4 or 6 grenades versus 2 or 3 is huge, especially when you're pushing into buildings that say a caustic team is inside. So I think he definitely has his place, and we'll see in the next tournament if he makes his way onto the comp scene. But I'm not really sure if he fits in quite yet.
I think probably not going to see more than one in the finals of ALGS. It's a stretch to say there's even going to be one. Really, the only util is the grenades. The Motherload, the ultimate, seems really underwhelming unless you use it inside, which is obnoxious and it kills you and the enemies. I think overall, pair him up with Horizon, pair him up with Caustic, and he's okay. But that's putting a lot of emphasis on your 3 ultimate abilities that you're not going to have all the time. So, not useless, not great, solid B tier.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he's a little bit underwhelming, in his tactical. It doesn't do too much damage. It's not as good as a thermite. But that's what he makes up for, I guess, in his passive because he can carry more of those. Um, but overall, he doesn't offer a ton of team utility, and his ultimate it's a little clunky, especially indoors. It's not a really viable ult indoors, and outdoors it's it depends on the situation. So I wouldn't see too much competitive play out of him. Uh, but I would agree with Ethan. He's at most like a B tier legend paired with the right other legends.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's a really pub like based character because I think what Respawn does when they make these characters, they want to put the fun factor first and then the competitive factor later. It's always because the majority of your player base is not going to be a competitive player base, right? It's going to be a casual player base. So you want to put a character that is fun to play while also good at competitive. That's why I think we see a lot of Wraith play back before Horizon, is because Wraith had this really cool ability you can make turn invisible and invincible and just run run and do whatever you like without the cast time. And then when they put the cast time, she was still one of like the best casual legends, but um the appeal kind of fell off, right? You couldn't just push and like do whatever you wanted because you had a queue, right? You had to take time to use your queue, and people were really upset about that because you can get lasered out of nowhere, right? And then we saw Horizon. Horizon was like, I think their golden child for legends that wanted to fit in the meta. You had like, I wouldn't say free rotations, but it made rotations a lot easier in the end ring, or even getting places where you wanted. Plus, she was a fun legend to play, right? Who wouldn't want to just go up in the air and strafe and start shooting at people and then throw a graviton essentially and suck people? Um, so like I think their design philosophy is getting better at designing legends that are competitively viable and fun to play. Unlike Watson, Revenant, Crypto, those are like, if you're not playing with a team, they're really hard to play by yourself.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you're saying. They're definitely up in their game on the legend design aspect. I think it's an interesting spot. Apex is really interesting because you do have that uh, aspect of competitive and ranked and casual play, and it is very different between the three. So trying to balance between them is a challenge to say the least. And we've seen some balancing that's happened to sort of separate the two. So I'm interested to see if there's more changes that maybe go into competitive that you will never see on the casual side of Apex. That's something to keep an eye out for. But yeah.
Any other thoughts? All
Nope.
right. So let's move on to, again, another thing in this new season, the 30-30 repeater. It is a heavy weapon, single fire lever action. It's, if you ever played Overwatch, basically Ash gun. You reload it one bullet at a time. In my opinion, it's just the it's like a heavy version of the scout. The scout. Yeah, the scout.
Yeah.
Uh, any opinions on that?
It's in an interesting spot, damage wise and fire rate wise, between the scout and the longbow. I think where it stands out for me is the added damage of scoping. Like if you scope down and hold your shot, your damage scales up to I think around 100 headshot with no helmet.
Yeah, it's 50
Uh,
50 body.
yeah, 50 body, which I think seems like very high first shot damage to me. I feel like this season has shifted towards a lot of like strong bursts. So we're seeing anvils back. We have the 30-30. So we've got a lot of really powerful one-shot guns. And I think, especially in comp, you want to capitalize on downs. If two teams are up and all three are fighting, usually it's going to be a pretty long slug out. But as soon as you get a down, you have that advantage. So I think we might see a lot of teams trying to run 30-30s or scouts, or instead of the usual charge rifle or triple take or longbow, in order to try to capitalize on those downs. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good gun. I would agree that it fills the same role as the G7. I think the key to its value is just its ammo efficiency and how much damage you can deal per shot. And if you remember the longbow a couple of seasons ago when it was a heavy gun, it was insane. It was completely overpowered. And since longbow has been transferred to a sniper weapon, uh, the heavy category has been missing like this high efficient damage per shot weapon. And up until last season, it was the Hemlock, and that was a very very strong pick. But with the nerfs, um, lines are starting to get blurred. Flatline is very strong pick as well. Um, but 30-30 definitely has a role, and I like the addition of it as a weapon to the Apex loot pool.
All right, Escape.
I think I've been trying it out. I was a Hemlock main for about a season and a half before they nerfed it, and the Hemlock's still great. The Flatline's still great. 30-30 feels a little bad in comparison, but it's still has such high damage potential. You can 3-shot a Wraith with white armor. It's it does, in my opinion, maybe a little bit too much damage. Maybe it fires a little bit too fast. Maybe the charge time is a little bit too fast, but otherwise it's powerful. It does work. Put it in your scout slot, put it in your longbow slot, put it on your support character. It's great.
I personally think that like it's definitely a new gun, and people have to get used to the bullet velocity. Of course, initial reactions are not going to be very welcoming because this game has bullet velocity, and adjusting to this new bullet velocity is actually kind of hard because this 30-30 the bullet she's really slow, and it's kind of hard to adjust. So I give it a little bit of time, and I think people will start to pick it up because those headshots are really punishing. And some
Yeah.
people just really don't like running snipers. I understand because you're giving up a weapon slot that you could use a Mastiff or even a 99. But before we talk about that gun meta, let's talk about the last thing on the big update. Kings Canyon, it returns, and it returns with a bang because there is a literal ship in the the north side of the map. It crashed into the map. It opened it up. It got rid of slum links. Thank God that place was terrible. New rotation spots. They took some buildings away. Let's talk about crash site though. Crash site goated? Maybe. It has a lot of loot. What are you guys' opinion?
Yeah, I love the area. I dislike the way it's connected to the map. The rotations through artillery and through Spotted Lake are nearly impossible if anyone's there looking at you. The one in the middle through the sort of artillery tunnel isn't too bad, but generally there's a building or just really wide open ground right there. So I feel like they solved one problem by opening up the map and adding POIs. We've got 21 named POIs now compared to 19, which made it almost impossible to play competitively because one team was guaranteed to 50-50. So that's a plus, but I feel like they solved one problem and kind of didn't really address the issue that is Kings Canyon chokes and the difficulty they impose on teams trying to rotate. So I like it. I don't love it.
Yeah, like it for pubs, not the competitive. All right. Anyone
Yeah, I would
else?
agree. The POI itself is nice, but the chokes are atrocious. Like when we played ranked the other day and we try to rotate up the river from spotted to crash site.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know like what legend we can play that can get us there. Um, I guess Wraith and Gibby, but like it's just a tough
Octane maybe.
way to rotate. It's yeah, Octane too.
Yeah, let's
Yeah, we'll talk about him later.
let's talk about it
but
later.
yeah.
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 Ethan.
It's rough. There's people rotating in from everywhere. If anybody tries to hold you out, you just die to the team behind you or to the team in front of you. But landing there's fun in pubs. There's a lot of cool walls you can climb, and the top area around the ship is really fun to play around.
Yep. All right. So, um, let's switch over to gun meta. So we just talked about the 30-30. We talked about implications of the meta. Let's talk about actually the the gold magazines, and let's talk also about the alternator buff, because I feel like alternator kind of struggled with the magazine capacity. So if you're like, not as looted and you have an alternator and a gold magazine, it actually improves your chances of winning a gunfight significantly, because sometimes you just run out of ammo and you switch. uh, so I think these, like, let's first tackle the gold magazines. I honestly think they're a good addition. They're not meta breaking. So this is I think it's a really good move from Respawn to introduce something fresh to the meta. Something that's an option. It's not required. It's not like you pick up this gold magazine and it reloads in like a second and you're back to shooting, right? It takes a long time. Uh, so I think it's a healthy addition. It's not too overpowered. It's not like underpowered. It's just, exists.
Yeah, I would largely agree on the gold mag. It's nice to have, not necessary at all. They did indirectly buff cheaters a lot because they don't have to reload now, which was the only chance you had to kill them. So that's
Yeah.
unfortunate. But yeah, I definitely think they did a pretty good job. Gold Barrel had kind of lost its purpose after they brought down the like magnitude of
Flash.
the flash.
Yeah.
And now, yeah, it's nice to have something else to look for, something else to pick up. Alternators definitely somewhat viable. Definitely wouldn't keep it a whole game, but if I have one in the beginning, I'm not going to be mad. Yeah, honestly, it just felt like a lot of slight changes to make guns feel a little bit better, a little bit more balanced. I don't think they broke anything or nerfed anything into oblivion, so I'm pretty happy with what they did.
Yeah, the gold mag on the 30-30 seems to be the most powerful, in my opinion. It'll reload the entire mag for you instead of having to do it one by one. Also, it's nice to be able to heal while your gun is reloading in fights. Otherwise, two golden magged Spitfires will never stop shooting. They're fine. It's nice that they don't have more ammo than purple. I think that would be annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the approach to gold mag was interesting. For a gold magazine, I would expect them to, increase or decrease reload time, or even increase capacity even more than purple. But definitely wasn't expecting them to add this ability where it auto reloads once the weapon's swapped. And yeah, I would say it's cool. It's very niche. I can't think of a time that I've gotten value out of it. And and yeah, it's just it's there.
Yeah, it exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would. Dice said something really cool in the like interesting in the chat. I mean, I was going to go over it. The Spitfire, you know, B tier gun. They basically increased the damage by 1 and reverted the hipfire nerf. Now, I think, like, in my experience, the Spitfire, it went from a B tier gun to actual usable gun. It can be in a final loadout. It has its place in the meta, right? If any gun is going to be called the Godslayer now, it's going to be the Spitfire, in my opinion. I've I don't know how many times I've unloaded a clip into somebody and I just run out of ammo and they just hold left click on me until I die. I don't know what to say about this gun. It's not meta breaking. I'm just it's unexpected. You don't see Spitfires all too much, but now you see them in almost every mid game fight.
Yeah, we were talking about how the heavy guns in general are probably the best category in the game overall. Funnily enough, Wingman, which was the most OP gun season 1, now is starting to look like maybe the worst option out of the the heavy guns you have. But yeah, I agree. Spitfire sort of came out Black Horse, not quite at the head of things, but definitely better than it was.
Spitfire can serve the place of a flatline or maybe a G7 or a 301. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's bottom tier mid range weapon. It's decent.
Yeah,
I'd use
I would
it.
agree. I would use it. I think it's the best light machine gun over the
But, like-
Devo, which is its only other one.
But you got the L-Star,
Just
too.
because. Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, yeah, because the Spitfire can, has higher bullet capacity. You don't need to charge it, of course, but also it comes in an ammo type that's easy to come by, and it's pretty crazy when you just hold down and it just doesn't stop. You could actually suppress a fire, which is I don't think we had it. We have a gun that can do that right now. Which you just hold angles, but yeah, infinite bullet waterfall. It's cool.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Before we get into legend meta, obviously, what affects the legend meta, we're talking about the map. So in the map, they obviously added crash site. We talked about that. They've removed They removed chokes. I don't know how well they removed it. It doesn't seem very well, to be honest. To reduce third parties, they've extended the map to include that crash site. They've taken away some buildings. Respawn's trying, man. They are trying, but saving KC, man. If they really wanted to save KC, I know it's a big meme. Just add Skulltown back. It adds a big portion of the map back, and like third parties are still atrocious. Like yesterday, me, Nick, and Ethan, we were by artillery, and we was like, "Oh yeah, it's a pretty isolated fight. We haven't seen a squad for like 10 minutes, or not 10 minutes, 5 minutes." We shoot one bullet. Squad comes from the behind the squad we're shooting at. Squad comes behind us. There's a squad behind that squad. There's a squad behind the squad that's shooting at the other team. We run away. There's a squad behind them. It's like, come on, man. Fix this third party. Make the map bigger. Eliminate some chokes. Like, what do you think they can do about that?
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem with adding Skulltown, Isaac. If you put Skulltown back in, you're pretty much putting Disneyland on Kings Canyon.
Yeah.
And the problem with that, because in pubs, Skulltown is legendary. It's it's where legends were made. And if you have it there, nobody else lands anywhere else, at least in pubs, which is where the majority of people play.
But like, yeah.
And that's the main problem. That's why they took it out. It's just too popular of a location, especially with Thunderdome and Gauntlet. It's just really strong places to land and just play. And then you look at the north side of the map, and it's just like trees and foliage and
rank
hills.
spot drops and it's like snooze fest, right?
It is a snooze fest, yeah. So I mean that's the issue, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Compare it to all the complaints that people are making about World's Edge right now is that everybody just lands frag east and dies during pubs, and then suddenly you have 4 squads in zone 1, and
Yeah.
it's a problem with the way that they're developing these maps to be centered around casual play while somewhat listening to the competitive community. I think the way to fix KC would to be almost restructure the entire map, because there's too many giant wide open spaces on the entire desert half of the map, and then on the right side everything's covered in foliage and you can't see anything. So, and then on the top it's rotating in is garbage, but it I want to say that it's going to be competitively viable at some point. The problem is it's not right now, and it's hard to make it that way without reworking the entire thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think my ideal Kings Canyon right now would be bring, like, with these POIs now, bring back at least something that fills in the spot here that you can play, because right now, or fills in the spot that was
But it's now
Skulltown, because-
salvage, essentially. Fill in salvage.
Yeah, and salvage doesn't really fix anything here, because the issue is between Market and Gauntlet. This stretch is an absolute wasteland, and to get out of this side of the map towards airbase, towards bunker, you have to go through that, or you go straight through the middle and risk the entire server.
Yeah.
rotating into you. So like, I don't know. I think they didn't really address the chokes that hurt the most, and meanwhile they took away a building, which I think gave some relief to people near cage and capacity, like in between and that hill area near the forest. Um, they took that building away. It's still on the map, which is confusing.
Yeah.
Now instead of having third parties on that building, you're just having third parties in the forest.
Yeah.
So I think they tried to address the problem there. I don't think it worked. But yeah, I think it's definitely in a better spot than it was. It's on an upwards trend as for comp viability. But yeah, I'd agree with Ethan's opinion that it's not quite there.
Okay. Okay. So let's go over some points in the chat. Griffey said just remove half of the balloons. I mean, yeah, true. He has a point, right? So they did try to attempt to do that in like the first like update to Kings Canyon. They took some balloons away, like one maybe. Um, Kings Canyon's a small map. There's a lot of chokes, like by salvage you can go to like airbase or the no name town through like a hole in a canyon or even around the canyon. There's just the way they set up the geography of the map lends to people taking balloon to the like in casuals or even in like low ranks, people monkeying with like balloon to balloon travel and then just kill the team there and then just take the balloon again and just go somewhere that's shooting, right? I think like going off of how to make Kings Canyon more competitive is spread out this geometry, man. Like World's Edge was so good for comp because you had like one big mountain with train going right through it, and you had like two chokes. In the most recent version of Kings Canyon, old Kings Canyon used to be pretty bad with chokes. World's Edge used to be pretty bad with chokes with where Harvester is now. It used to be just like a cliff with a building in it, and then there's a building on a higher cliff. So there's like that was like a huge choke point that was really bad for ranked. I think they should do the same thing with Kings Canyon. There's just the forest area is so dense that you can't see in it, and it's really easy to just sneak third party people. Meanwhile, the desert is just so open that snipers just reign supreme, and there's no cover, and you can just snipe people out of the air. It's kind of nuts. They need to like fix the balance of geometry throughout Kings Canyon and give a little bit more space for people to breathe. I know it slows down game pace just a little bit, but right now it's just if you think there's a third party that's viable, you have to keep second guessing yourself because you don't know if there's like a sixth party laying within like earshot. So, your opinions on taking away balloons?
If you remove the balloons, that's going to force teams through chokes that are already congested. The
Yeah.
balloons are an option, somewhat dangerous option to be taking to get past the chokes and try to get to other POIs, other rotation spots. If you remove all the balloons, then the map falls short even more, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the only way to really get past that trick I mentioned, your gauntlet, is the salvage balloon. And that's my favorite balloon because no one can shoot you on it. That thing is curvy, and it's kind of nice. But I feel like the third party issue, it's definitely an issue in casual. But I think even in ranked, but I think in comp, you don't really see balloons being used for third parties. They're really just used for rotations, and that's what they need to be used for. Yeah, like Ethan said, you take those away, and you have twice as many teams in the chokes.
Yeah. Okay. Calvin, any new opinions? Anything you got on? Get off your chest, you know.
No,
All right.
no,
Uh,
I would agree.
okay. So let's move on from map. We've talked map enough, right? We'll talk about the rank viability later. Go a little bit more in depth, but let's talk about legend meta, right? So we saw that Wraith got a new hitbox update, It basically turned her from like the smallest character in like the game to more mid-size, even though her hitbox, like her character model, does actually like reflect that. And I feel like Respawn wanted all characters to be kind of the same hitbox, so they didn't have to do this type of thing. That argument has been thrown out there so many times. When Pathfinder got his hitbox update, when Fortify came out, um, I think in terms of legend meta, Wraith now has definitely have seen a fall in play rate. We've seen her go from the first top win rate to the fourth. It may or may not be due to people switching to Horizon or the hitbox update. We don't know. There's a combination of two. But as a solution, I think, or I want you guys' opinion on this. Let's take away low profile, right? She's no longer low profile in hitbox sense, but low profile in character model sense. What are you guys' opinion on that?
Yeah, I have mained Wraith since season 0. I've taken the full brunt of all of her nerfs. She was very good the original season, but I'd say this one didn't have a huge effect on her. You can definitely she feels worse to play, but she's not broken in any way. I would like to see some sort of maybe not buff, but just alteration to everything that's happened. Maybe taking away low profile in exchange for upping her actual hitbox. That is I think possibly a viable solution. I think just at this point, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if her stats are declining because people have seen a trend of, oh, she's still good. We should nerf her abilities. We should nerf her kit. We should nerf her fighting. We should nerf her 1v1s like every season, except for maybe the rework season. I forget when that actually happened. She's been nerfed. And at this point, honestly, I'm getting kind of sick of repeated
Repeated
race
nerfs.
nerfs, even
Yeah.
though there are legends outperforming her that are new to the game. Like Horizon got a slight nerf, but has been outperforming her since she came out, and consistently outperforms Wraith in 1v1s or 1vx players because of her Q. I don't know. It seems like misguided attention, in my opinion, but I am also a Wraith man, so I get a little salty. So it's okay.
little bias, little bias.
A little biased.
And you guys have input? Any opinions?
I think right now she's actually in a fairly decent spot. The reason that Respawn keeps destroying her is because they want to expand the legend choices in the competitive meta and in casual play. And if you look back a year, Wraith was 100% picked on every single competitive team and was the most played character in all of Apex in casual play as well. And Respawn keeps adding characters that aren't necessarily fun to play, like Rampart, like Caustic, like the defensive characters are not really fun to play in these pub situations. So as they nerf Wraith to make her quote unquote more balanced, they're also I think looking to improve the defensive characters so that they see play in pubs, which is, Caustic buff. Now he's good. Now he's too good. But I think Wraith is actually in a fine spot right now. Seeing the diversity in the competitive scene is actually interesting to me. I like seeing Gibby, Caustic, Horizon teams. That's cool. Or Crypto instead of a Wraith, or Bloodhound. Still, it's great. It's interesting to watch, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I think low profile, like you said, like it could be removed, and that could be a viable change we could see. And I always thought low profile was just a temporary bandage on a character's pick rate. Like you can't say a character has low profile because they have a small hitbox when the tallest character in the game and the shortest character in the game both have low profile. So with these hitbox changes, I think taking out low profile would improve her viability again. But like Nick said, she's just getting outclassed. At the competitive level, her portal it doesn't go as far as it used to. And on a map like Kings Canyon, we're in like more situations where you have to make a long rotate, and a portal wouldn't cut the distance. And it's not like a map where you can choose point A, point B, let's portal from there to stay safe. You have to, move along the ground as much as you can. And yeah, I am enjoying the diversity in pick rate as well. Um, and there are other legends that also help with rotating, such as Horizon and Octane, which we're seeing more buffs for and more viability for. So I think it's exciting. Um, I think Wraith is still a very good competitive character on a non Kings Canyon map.
Okay. Okay, you mentioned the next point, Octane. Basically before the buff, his jump pad was worse Horizon Q. Um, Now Octane, I've been seeing a lot more Octane in like, plat diamond lobbies. I'm pretty sure even the Masters Pred players are feeling it too. His jump pad almost serves, I wouldn't say the same purpose as Wraith Portal. I would say it serves almost the same purpose as Horizon Q. They're competing abilities. Jump pad sends you more vertically now, and it also gives you the option of going high. So in terms of rotations and like these small map like ring rotations, Octane is now becoming a better pick than he was before, and he's still staying a pub legend. Like I think Respawn is really taking the character really well into competitive viability. Obviously, he's still not, the best competitive legend because he's very selfish. His abilities don't give any teammates cover. He just stims himself. But in casuals, Respawn released the statistics that Octane was actually one of the best 1v1 characters in the game. And I think it's really good for Octane in the state of the game because now we're seeing, like you said, more variables. So like I know Caustic now is not as good as he was on World's Edge, but now you're seeing like Caustic, Gibby, Horizon, or Wraith, Bloodhound, Gibby again. We're seeing that back. You're seeing Watson come back a little bit in these end game fights. You're seeing Horizon being played. But let's talk about Octane, man.
Yeah, Octane's definitely a pick now. It's interesting. I don't know if he'll be played in competitive, but in pubs and ranked. On one hand, I'm very happy that he's sort of more viable. On the other, I think he makes third parties 1,000 times worse. I'm glad he got a height buff. I think he needed it. There was a lot of spots on Kings and World's Edge that you couldn't get on top with an Octane pad that you could with a Horizon Q. So it just seemed kind of useless. And that now you can get on things like Repulsor Wall. You can get, that's the main one that stands out for me. But you can get on top of some other buildings that you couldn't earlier. But the vertical speed lets you get from a lot of these POIs to adjacent POIs instantly. And I kind of dislike that, to be honest. But yeah, he's definitely more viable on a mobility standpoint. And especially, I think what's playing into a lot of these Legends viability is the ring change from last season. So having the ring no longer close quickly to that like 5x5 or that 5 foot diameter circle that it was, which really encouraged a lot of wraiths, a lot of gibbies, a lot of caustics. Like now we have that slowly closing last ring, and I think it's giving a bunch of other legends a chance to sort of see competitive play. So we'll see if Octane makes it in, but I don't know if he quite fits in with the sort of expected playstyle of rotate first, fight later in comp.
Okay.
He's fun for ranked. He's fun for pubs. Probably won't see any play in high level competitive. The jump pad is obnoxious a little bit. You turn a corner and have 3 people landing on your head, but otherwise he's fine. I don't know. I was never a big Octane player. People like him a lot. He was, I believe, the number one, or maybe number one, top 3 picked character in unranked in just casuals. I'm pretty sure. Saw that somewhere. Who knows? But it's he's good. He goes fast. That's about it.
Yeah, I think Octane is in a good spot right now. Yeah, fun pub character, fun pub or fun rank character. It's interesting seeing how good his win rate is in fights in 1v1 situations. I always thought he was excellent in those situations. Just the B hop heal combined with just being fast and with a relatively good hitbox. He's a lot of fun to play. And when you Q, you feel like an animal. It's a lot of fun. Um, and now you can rotate and get to places easier with his jump pad, and he can compete with Horizon.
Yep.
So I like the changes, but it is annoying getting third party quickly when teams monkey with him.
Yeah.
So
And
it's something to look at moving forward.
let's talk about another. I say up and coming. If he was up and coming in the meta, he really showed a lot of popularity towards the end of season 7 in World's Edge ranked. That's Caustic. Caustic this patch, they called it a bug, but it was so long that no one thought it was a bug. It was basically a feature of Caustic. It's his gas disappearing when he dies. That and combined with the Kings Canyon type, change from World's Edge, it really put a damper on his momentum coming into season 8. He was basically once EU ALGS played Caustic Crypto Wraith, I believe. Basically every pro team was playing it because they showed the counter meta to Gibby. So now that like his gas dies, Kings Canyon is not as, I would say, there's not as much places to put your barrel to hide it like World's Edge. I think we might see a little bit less Caustic on. I would say, thank God, because I hate Caustic. Oh my God, he's really annoying. But like, it's kind of sad to see the momentum die away.
There's still going to be caustics on Kings. I think the caustic Gibby Wraith or caustic Gibby Horizon is going to grow in popularity. The caustic is great because you can hold down a building if you need to against as pretty much as many teams as you need to. You can sit in zone with caustic in a building. You can sit in the middle of zone and wait for teams to rotate in with caustic. There's no other legend that can hold down an area like caustic. So rotation potential not great, but I still think he is too powerful to not see any play. Maybe not as much play as people would like, or rather, too much for what people want. But he'll be around.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially Caustic and Gibby have sort of an interesting synergy with other teams, or I guess that's not really the right word, but like they've got a paper beats paper, rock beats rock, scissors survives rock and paper with like Caustic Gibby Horizon, where Gibby's countering Gibby's. Caustic is the only person that counters Caustic, versus I guess like Crypto sort of has a role. You can disable traps, but really Caustic's the only one that can push through DAS or like deal with other Caustics in my mind. So I think as long as it's somewhat viable, there's going to be a decent amount of teams playing them. But yeah, he's definitely doesn't have as much of a place on this map as I think he does on World's Edge.
I agree. Kings Canyon has pretty weak caustic defended buildings, but you can make it work for sure. And he does have value outdoors in certain situations as well. So I do think he's still a pretty good pick because when he's in a spot, I mean, like Ethan said, like there's no other legend that can hold a building down like that. There's no other legend you could play Bloons tower defense with like that. It's crazy. But yeah, when you're in your spot, it works.
Okay. I just want you guys' opinion. Let's go a little fast round. I'll throw one at you. Let's talk about Volt, the the singular damage nerf. Um, Still a great weapon. Headshot damage multiplier is nuts. Still beam you out of nowhere, right? Don't really think that's a big nerf to the Volt. I really want to see the headshot multiplier go down. It's way too much. Like instead of 32 now, it does 30 a headshot. The 99 does what, like 18 a headshot? Like why is the Volt is just so nuts that it's still one of the best guns in the game, even though they nerfed it.
Yep.
It'll always be good until they kill it. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's single-handedly carrying the energy category. It's just very, very good at almost all ranges other than long range, and you could even take it in place of a shotgun slot just because it's really consistent in like a close range.
Yeah. I, the energy category that you mentioned, or now that you mentioned it, Colin's kind of in a weird spot because two of their guns almost rely on a gold hop up to function. Havoc and Devo without the turbocharger are pretty bad. They'll get you killed in a fight if you get run up on by a squad. Volt just stands out as much better, direct competitor to the 9. Better at range, in my opinion. The recoil is almost non-existent. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they continue to nerf it. I think it could be nerfed more and still would be viable. I think what stood out to me the most originally was how much damage it does, even without a mag. 9 without a mag barely kills Gibby on white. Volt kills like 2 people.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Okay. I like the input. As you said, the Volt carrying the energy weapons category. Basically, I think the turbocharger for the hop up and Devo just basically turn it into, assault rifle Volt, LMG Volt, right? The headshot multiplier is even more nuts on those guns. But are you gonna take a Havoc over a Volt? Are you gonna take a Devo over a Volt? Are you gonna take an L Star over a Volt? I don't think so. The Volt is an all around weapon, and if they really want the energy category to be viable, they have to either nerf the Volt and buff the other guns, or just buff the other guns and make them nuts. To be honest, like they tried to do that to lower the TTK, or the time to kill, by doing that armor, the big evil armor change, and nobody liked that. And basically, when you do these things with the energy weapons, they have one of the highest like base damages in the game. It is even more than the heavy weapons. And if they buff these like energy weapons up, you're going to see the Havoc meta come back, and we all know how the Havoc meta was. Someone's on a head glitch and you get beamed for 36 a headshot and you die. It's like you have barely any time to react. You can't even throw a Gibby bubble before you die. And it really, I wouldn't say irks me, but it really like rubs me the wrong way that Respawn chose to make energy guns come at a price, like the time to kill to come at a price, which is the charge up. But then they come out with with an energy gun that basically has no recoil. It's a 301 but better. You just can't put it 3 times on it, and it's better than the 99. It's better than the Prowler. It's better than the Flatline. It's better than the sometimes if you're bad with the Mass, it's better than the Mastiff if you're bad with it. And it kind of like it kind of makes me sad because the Volt will never not be meta.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd like to see a buff to the other guns in the energy category. I would like to see the L Star have a magazine. I don't know. I don't understand the physics of how that works. Like, is there a vacuum tube attached to your energy? I don't know, but yeah, buff the other guns. Maybe like increase your ADS strafe speed because I feel like on the Havoc and Devo, I mean the hip fire isn't strong, and you're gonna be ADSing most of the time with those guns. So if we see an increase of strafe speed, that would be interesting as a buff. And maybe we need a single shot energy gun. I think if we could see maybe like an energy equivalent of a wingman, that would be nice. I would like to see something like that exist in that category. Something more, energy or more like ammo efficient. Because now that the Volt is the only viable gun in that category, energy can be harder to find sometimes on boxes.
Okay, let me make a real quick point. Breaded Beef said Havoc Select Fire for that single shot. I think the reason why no one used the Havoc Select Fire is because it was basically a charge rifle. It was basically a charge rifle, right? There was no point of using it unless you were sniping. But then you're using a Havoc with a charge up time, which is like the huge downside, right? So you have to pre-fire anybody you wanted around the corner on, and then you're like, oh yeah, I have this option to have a sniper rifle that takes 5 bullets away from me. That's a lot of bullets. You gotta realize that when you're in these, when you're not in when you're not in casuals, you're in these like um, ranked situations, competitive situations. You don't have 300 bullets. You're not carrying 300 bullets. You're carrying like 180, maybe 240. You're carrying like, I don't know, 4 shield cells. You got 1 bat on a good day. So like the select fire on the Havoc was basically, it did the same thing as moving the L star to the sniper category. It's like, oh yeah, it happens. But would I ever take it over a turbocharger? I don't think so.
Right.
Another issue is that you couldn't put a long enough range optic. You could put a 3x or a 2.4 on your Havoc, and then suddenly they get close to you. You swap it back to regular Havoc, and now you're zooming in on their face when the kick is massive.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
it didn't work on the gun. It was okay.
All right. So we're running a little bit out of time. I wanted, get a little bit more personal. I want to know your guys' experience with season 8 so far. You like it? Don't like it? You middle on it? In my opinion, I really love season 8. It's I love Apex anyways. It's been really refreshing. I don't feel like I've ever like done everything. I want you guys' opinion on, just gameplay itself, how you're feeling. How's the battle pass, I know it's like a big controversy that the longbow got a 100 level 100 skin. I personally don't mind it because I use the longbow quite a lot. Maybe I'm just bad, but who knows? But yeah, what's you guys' opinion?
I mean, I'm having a good time. I like the last season we didn't play, or the season before, we didn't play ranked on Kings Canyon. Like the entire split, we didn't play ranked because it was on Kings Canyon. And I was pretty happy with that choice because ranked on season like 7 previous Kings Canyon was one of the worst experiences I've had in Apex. And I think they made it. I liked fighting in a lot of the new POIs on the map, and I think in general the map's in a slightly better spot. So I definitely like the new season changes. Yeah, I don't really know. That's kind of where I'm at. Having a good time so far.
It's fun. It's Apex. I like Apex.
Yeah,
If I could play ranked on a different map, I would like that.
this is true.
But it gives me an excuse to play Gibraltar, so I like that.
Yeah. The battle pass has been pretty good. I generally don't have an issue with the battle pass. I think I've gotten most of them just from playing through last seasons, but I play a lot, so I understand if some people get frustrated if they can't complete the battle pass. But I think they have done a decent job of addressing that. And I think this season's anniversary event is probably the best event we've had so far in terms of sort of limited time events, just because they have lowered the cost of all of the skins. They have given people a chance to get heirloom crafting materials rather than a specific heirloom, so that it applies to a much larger portion of the population. And I think overall they just did a better job. There's more content, more challenges. So I think they're definitely heading in the right direction. I'm excited to see what happens in later seasons. I will definitely be there to play.
Yeah, I think it's fine. The battle pass is great. It's content, which is always nice. The anniversary event's fun. I'm really excited to spend some money to get a Mirage heirloom. Pretty excited for that. Otherwise, it's Apex. I like the game. I might spend some money on it every once in a while.
Yeah. Season 8's fun. I like the map changes, but it's not quite enough. Something I really want to see though. Can we get a map rotation for ranked? Come on now. That would be come on. You can't deny that would be a lot of fun. Just keep you on your toes, make you sharp on every map. You know, you're not stuck to one meta for a whole season or even one map for a whole season. I don't see why we couldn't do it. Especially with comp still playing on World's Edge. Like how can you practice for that other than scrims? But yeah, King's Canyon still needs work, but I like the different meta right now. I like not playing Wraith, but playing other characters, playing Horizon, you know, and maybe we'll try Octane. And yeah, so far so good.
So, we're running a little bit long. So, for our radio folk, that is going to air on Friday, 10 to whenever it ends. I still got to email them about the 10 slot, but it's definitely going to be 10 or 12. This is going to be a bi-weekly episode podcast series. So our next episode will be February 21st. That's a Sunday. It'll air every Sunday around, I say 7 or 8 p.m. CST. You can catch it on also live at twitch.tv/IIT esports. Again, that's twitch.tv/IIT esports. For these guys, Nick or Sticks, you can catch him at twitch.tv/NRT_Sticks, and that's STYX. That's, NRT boys, all three of them. For Ethan, you can catch him at twitch.tv/303_escape. That's ECSAPE. I hope I spelled that right, but that's what it is.
It's an English word. I hope you can spell it.
I can't spell. And for Calvin or Calfon, you can catch him at twitch.tv/Calfon. Very simple. I like it. Anyways,
Oh yeah.
thank
You're
you
gonna
guys.
spell the word escape, but not the word
Okay.
Calfon.
My bad. Calfon is spelled CALPFON.
Got the H.
PHON.
Oh no. Okay, let me
PH.
respell that. CALPHON. That's again twitch.tv/CALPHON. That's Calvin or Calfon. So we have a question on the VOD will go up, I think, in a couple days. I want a good turnaround for that. So thank you guys so much for coming. I'm gonna throw it to the transition screen for the closing. Everybody, thank you for 303 Academy for coming. It's a very good opening, strong start to the series. I plan to have other guests come on from IIT or maybe from other esports leagues. So stay tuned for that. Again, we are going to have our second episode on February 21st, Sunday. Awesome. Let's wrap it up, man.
Great.
All
Thank
right,
you
yeah.
for having us. Isaac.
Yep. I'll see you guys later.
All right, thank you all for coming on.
Later.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks,
So-
awesome.
Always.
Awesome.
Alright,
Let's
I'm here.
let's do this little wrap up. I throw on the transition screen, so no cams. It's completely
Okay,
fine.
good.
So today was a really good day. I think the episode really well. I really liked your Valorant section. It's pretty in depth. Uh,
Thank you,
you
thank you.
know, I think people liked it. So your opinions on the show and what are your like kind of visions for this going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it went pretty well. I feel like we definitely gave a lot of insight into the various scenes, what's going on, and everything. I really liked the insight into Apex because I don't really play it competitively, but it was interesting to see like more of the competitive stuff. Um, but yeah, I think overall it went pretty well. I think maybe in the future, uh, maybe not focus too much on all the teams, but maybe just like the big stuff that happened overall in the scene. I don't know, because some teams just felt like that we didn't have a lot to say, but I think overall it went pretty well.
Yeah, and I really liked today's episode. I like League of Legends. If anybody wants to see any esports like related fields go forward. So if you want to see Dota, you want to see CS:GO, you want to see Overwatch whenever that starts up. Well, I'm definitely going to cover Overwatch. That's like my home game.
Yeah, same,
uh,
same here.
Shoot us a DM on the IIT Esports Discord. I believe we have a yeah. It's discord.gg/IIT Esports. You can find us there. Shoot me an email. My username is Shockwave with a Q. I might change that soon, so just look for the officer with the cute Watson chibi like profile picture. That's me. You can also shoot a DM to Awesome or Zin on Discord. He has his name in his Discord username, so it'd be kind of fun. Um, but yeah, I really like today's show, and I'm really excited to push this going forward. We're gonna have a special guest. I'm gonna try to have a special guest every episode, and it's all fun from here. This podcast I think is gonna be really cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the what do you call it? Sorry, I think it looks bright. I feel like we can do a lot of good stuff with this podcast, and I also really like how it's not necessarily set in stone the way that we want to do it, but I think this is a good way to start it off.
Yep. And from all of us, from IIT and from the Reesports cast, we wish you guys a good night, and good luck on the school school studies, because God knows we all need it. Anyways, Reesports rundown, signing off.